What is happening, Internet? How's everybody doing? So, tonight is a recap on all things Warner Discovery after their earnings meeting, which actually they lost a lot of money, but they have a plan, which for the first time in a very long time, Warner Brothers actually has a plan. Now, whether or not this plan is going to work, we don't know, but they do have a 10-year plan in place that will highlight Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, not Batgirl, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman. So the female trinity is never going to happen. If we get a World's Finest movie, it will actually be Batman and Superman proper. Now, we don't know who Batman and Superman will be, but we may actually know. There are a lot of changes going on, and some of them we've actually seen, and we're very surprised about. Ben Affleck returning to Aquaman, and people are like, oh, it's just, so he can do a favor, so he can get some other Warner Brothers movies in the future. It's like, yeah, no, I don't think Ben works that way. Ben's in a great mental, state of mind. The old regime is gone. Toby Emmerich is packing. Walter Hamada, Anna, they're all gone. The DC reset essentially happened. All the people in charge of the Hamadaverse, all the post-production Flash movies that were connected to the Hamadaverse are dead. Supergirl's not going to be happening. Batgirl is shelved, done. There's no way they can release it because the story can't replace Michael Keaton with Ben Affleck, because the whole point of Batgirl, spoilers, is she was going to replace Michael Keaton because he was an elderly superhero. Ben Affleck is not an elderly superhero, even though he was a Batman, from like a little up there in years, like 40s, late 40s, early 50s. He was not, popping geriatric pills the way that, Keaton's Batman is getting close to. Also, Batgirl belittled Keaton. You can't belittle Ben Affleck. Affleck is this big, towering figure, and the script was written by the same lady that did Harley Quinn, and if you've seen the Harley Quinn movie, it's not really favorable toward men. It's a very, female power trip movie, and Batgirl, unfortunately, kind of followed that same MO. There was some things about the Batgirl film that, actually took stuff from the comics, her origin, exactly like the comics. She gets her costume from going to a costume party dressing up as Batman. She takes down some terrorists and saves her dad. She later becomes a vigilante. Batman tells her that she's not associated with him, although based on Twitter culture, you can see how, that interaction didn't really go the way that fans of Michael Keaton would appreciate. So, it wasn't a No Way Home situation. All the test screenings were bad. The only people that said the test screenings for the Batgirl movie were good were Batgirl movie shills. The reason why the movie can't be remade or released is because it's an utter mess. I wouldn't say the movie's trash because they tried. They had a terrible script. They had a terrible vision from Warner Media. And I don't think the directors were really able to implement their true vision of, what Batgirl was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a post, Flash movie to set up a new universe. And there's no way that it can survive. Whereas Blue Beetle, which Blue Beetle is a movie that's theatrical release and should be okay, you could actually exchange Michael Keaton's Batman for Ben Affleck and just have Ben Affleck invite, Jaime to the Justice League, if that's what the sequence is, supposedly that Keaton was going to be involved with. You can use Ben Affleck to do that, and you can have a type of reset after The Flash that involves, I wouldn't say the Snyderverse, because I don't believe Zack is coming back. I hate to be the one to tell you guys, but he is very busy with the Netflix stuff. You can have Snyderverse characters without it being the Snyderverse. It's just the DCEU. There's going to be a soft little reset. Some characters are going to stick around, some characters may not. But the most important thing about what happened is that Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and Aquaman are at the top of Zaslav's list for iconic franchises that they want to push. Whereas before, Warner Media wanted to push secondary characters and put a lot of distance, on the big leads, except for Matt Reeves' Batman. And Matt Reeves' Batman is still happening, too. So not only are you going to have a cinematic-centered Batman franchise or movie, you're also going to have Matt Reeves' little universe that he's building. So, that's a huge win. Not a huge win for Twitter about, what they wanted or their excuse that they got from Zaslav. This is one of my favorite quotes from the man today. The objective is to grow the DC brand, to grow the DC characters, but also our job is to protect the DC brand. And that is what we are going to do. So he means if your movie is garbage and it's going to impact or harm the image of the characters, it's going to get thrown in the trash. Another thing that I really like about the earnings that I was listening to off and on before I had to stream Xenoblade is the fact that in that earnings call, he talked about how they want to do a model of quality over quantity. And DC Films have been, trying forever to play catch up with, Marvel and trying to meet deadlines, and movies have been rushed and messy and all over the place. And now it feels like they actually have like some type of manifesto that they're actually going to work with. And actually, if I remember correctly, back when they were doing the Nolan franchise films, that's exactly what their mindset was that Alan Horn had, is that they were going to focus on a quality product and they would release the movie when it was done. The Dark Knight Rises did not come out on its original movie release. It got pushed back, I think, at least once or twice. The Dark Knight had some problems behind the scenes because, of course, the passing of the Joker actor. But when those movies did release, they were amazing. They just hit it out of the park. Unfortunately, the Superman movie, Superman Returns, wasn't really that good. But also back then, Warner Brothers did stick to their guns, and they canceled a lot of movies. This is not the first time that a movie has been near complete, and they just said, you get the yeet. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a terrible movie in development around this time that was called Justice League Mortal. And it would feature a gun-toting Batman, a different version of Superman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and all these other characters, and it was a terrible movie. I have no idea how Warner Brothers even got that thing green light. They were doing their cast party. They had filmed some of the movie, and they got the call from Warner Brothers, and they're like, yeah, this is garbage, get rid of it. And they just canceled production outright. It was supposed to come out, I want to say, like around 2005 or 2006, maybe even before then, like right around the time of one of the Spider-Man big releases, and it never happened. Like, the movie got completely gutted. Everybody was, found out about it and was crying about it before social media was a really big thing. And, we dodged a huge bullet because that would have been the first ever Justice League movie. Everybody's like, well, the Joss Whedon Justice League movie that released was pretty bad. It's like, this would have been a million times worse. They weren't even in any type of characterization for the Justice League. And yet, Warner Brothers approved that type of movie until it went into production, and then they killed it. But there were other movies that were, tanked, and shows and stuff like that. They'd filmed an entire Wonder Woman pilot in the early 2000s. It was going to be a Wonder Woman, or maybe it was mid-2000s. It's going to be a Wonder Woman show. They filmed the pilot, and then they just canceled the entire thing outright. And I'm hoping right now, but the Gotham Knights show is being filmed. I really, really hope that it gets the plug pulled, because that does not follow Zaslav's, brand quality thing. That show is going to be garbage. That show is going to be so bad that if that show gets to exist and Batgirl got the, its thing unplugged, that's not fair, because that show is just a walking disaster. It's going to be so bad. Everything that he's talked about in his meeting, if they don't do something about Gotham Knights like right away, oh my gosh, he's going to look like the biggest hypocrite in the industry, because he really has people running scared right now. I told you guys before, I said a bloodbath was going to happen when this man took office, because the honeymoon period is over. The books have been like completely gone over. They know what they're doing. They know how much money they lost. They lost $3 billion, and they have to cut costs, whether that's going to be firing employees, shutting down movies, R.I.P. Scooby, which I was actually looking forward to that, because like a pup needs Scooby-Doo. Everybody remembers Scooby-Dooby, Scooby-Dooby. The pup named Scooby-Doo. That was a great show. And it looked like the Scooby Hollywood holiday special thing was kind of like in the vein of a pup named Scooby-Doo. And the movie was tested. Everybody loved it, but they yeeted it. And the funny thing is, the misinformation going around is everybody says that Batgirl was, ready to go. It's like, no, Batgirl was ready for reshoots and, some post-production stuff, but it was no way, shape, or form ready for release this year or even like early next year. It got abysmal test screenings. Like, the stuff between Keaton and Batgirl was cringe. The story that Batgirl had, while it was very similar to her origin, which people are ragging on, but that's her origin. She gets a costume. She beats up people. She becomes a vigilante, saves the day. But just some of the characters they introduced, some of the plot points, the acting between Leslie Grace and Keaton was cringe. The relationship between her and J.K. Simmons was wonderful and special, and the breakaway star of that movie would have been Brendan Fraser. So if anybody took the biggest hit out of all this, is this could have really either helped or hurt Brendan Fraser's career, because he was essentially the star of this movie. Just to throw out some plot points that I know now. Brendan Fraser was a character who was trying to help his wife who has some type of horrible disease, and they basically did an adaptation of Mr. Freeze and Nora. Mr. Freeze became a criminal in the BTS show because he was trying to find a cure for his wife, who was cryo-frozen with like this horrible disease, whether it's McGregor syndrome or whatever made-up disease they make. And he becomes a criminal because of circumstances. You know, he can't afford the treatment. He needs a very expensive stuff in order to do stuff. So more or less, instead of being a doctor, you have this average Joe, you know, Brendan Fraser, because he plays these darling roles, you know, these average nice guys that have terrible things happen to them, and he has to turn to crime because his insurance gets canceled, and then he has to, you know, do whatever he can to save his wife. And so essentially, they took bits and pieces of different Batman lore and they made Firefly interesting, I guess, but. You know, a lot of people also criticized Brendan Fraser for his appearance because he's very depressed. He's a very big man right now. He's had a lot of hard things happen to him, which, you know, it's very sad. But, you know, test audiences, they loved his character and they loved his story more than the main character. So, unfortunately, what happened was, if the rumors are true, David saw the movie and he hated it. He hated it. And there was no, you know, that was it. There's no coming back from that. If the big CEO guy doesn't like your movie, I mean, you're out of luck. And the reason why he probably went to go see the movie is because he's a big fan of the three characters he mentions. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. That's where the focus of the movies need to be. And since Batgirl is associated with Batman, well, I mean, there was a lot riding on this. But yeah, I mean, it's sad, but you have to, especially during the time of a merger, people need to remember this. You need to bring your A game when you make a movie during a massive merger, because you're going to have not the same ideal set that you once did. The plan was always David was going to yeet and gut Warner Brothers and replace them with successful Discovery CEOs. And that's exactly what he did. As soon as he came in, he fired like 18 people that were in Warner Brothers and replaced them all with Discovery leads and put them in a higher power. And, you know, he's just going to keep going that route, because it's not about, you know, just filling a position of who you are. You have to do your job and do it well. And the people that he yeeted from Warner Brothers were doing a terrible job. And I know there's stuff all over Twitter about, you know, who he voted for and, you know, what he stands for. And people are just mad because he's going to do actually a better job than most people, because this is a New York City businessman. California was not ready for what he did. And the storm is still coming. This is right now, we're in the eye of the hurricane. We don't know what's going on outside, because in the earnings report, they didn't talk about all the crazy rumors that are going on right now. He plans on gutting DC Comics because he is furious with Dark Crisis and Future State and the failure of books and what's going on with Superman and what's going on with Batman, what's going on with Young Justice, the Justice League. None of this is good, you know? So we're going to find out what's going to happen with that probably by the end of the year. Not DC Animation. Warner Animation's in trouble. Cartoon Network is in trouble. There are people on Adult Swim that are panicking because they don't know if they're going to have a job next year. You know, there are people who work for HBO Max that are kind of like terrified because basically one of their biggest fears is realized. What you guys have to understand about the whole HBO Max Discovery Plus thing, that's not going to come without a lot of, you know, problems. Because everybody's misinterpreting what's happening. It's like, yes, the companies are merging, Discovery and HBO Max, but they're not going to just be, okay, I get to keep my Discovery service and I can watch HBO Max, or I'm going to have my HBO Max service and I can watch Discovery. No, that's not what's going to be happening. They're going to create a brand new, like, service, and then HBO Max is going to disappear. It'll be gone by summer of next year, and Discovery Plus probably will be gone too. But the thing is, Discovery Plus, did you know, it is way more successful than Warner Brothers. Like, they have over 90 million subscribers on Discovery Plus, which I was amazed to learn this during the earnings call. I was like, you can't be serious. Who watches this? I will be honest, okay? I might hurt some people's feelings. When my wife and I travel for press events, because game journalist stuff, we go to New York City, or we go to Chicago, or we go, sometimes to California to meet up with a game developer. We stay in a hotel. I'm very exhausted from traveling, and my wife puts on Discovery. We order room service, and Discovery's on for 5 minutes. I'm out. Like, I'm done. Like, I remember clearly, we were at PAX East. We were on the show floor all day. We did about 15 interviews. We came back to the hotel. Amber said, hey, I would like to order room service. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. And she's like, oh, I love this shark thing. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, it's a show where they build shark tanks. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'll watch it with you. I'm sitting there on, like, this little couch, which wasn't even a couch. I think it was, like, something people... it was in the Intercontinental in Boston. And I think it's just, like, a love seat, but not a love seat, because it didn't have a back like a normal couch. I kid you not. I was waiting for room service. I'm watching the thing, and Amber goes to use the bathroom, or she's unpacking something. I don't know. I don't remember. And within 5 minutes of the show starting, they did their little intro. It had like some type of southern drawl music. I don't know, banjo related. I don't know. With a little bit of rock, because everything has to be extreme with sunglasses, like it's Pawn Stars or whatever. I don't know. And I'm sitting there. And the next thing I know, Amber's like bringing in room service, and it's already been 45 minutes later, and I passed out. Like, as soon as the thing came on, now you could say, well, you were exhausted from being on the show floor, but every time somebody puts me in front of the Discovery Channel, not to, insult Zaslav or the Discovery people, it's not for me. I fall asleep. It's a very laid-back style of entertainment, and it's not something that I like. I like scripted entertainment. I like things that are flashy and exciting and have characters and stories, which apparently I'm part of a demographic that HBO has, where they show listed that fandom is where HBO Max is. Like, they have a little chart. I don't think I can show it, but a little chart there shows you. I'll read the chart to you, though, because I don't have any ways of putting it here on my my streaming software. Let's see. It would be in my downloads. Okay, my little chart. So, according to their earnings call, HBO Max stands for male-skewed audience, scripted content, lean-in, appointment viewing, home of fandoms. So, unique and complementary is what they call HBO Max. Then over on Discovery Plus, female skew, unscripted, lean back, comfort viewing, home of Generadums? Generadums. I have no idea what that means. But Home of Fandoms is HBO, so DC, Warner Brothers content. And then the other one is Comfort Viewing, which makes sense. That's the kind of stuff that they excel at over there. So, yeah, I was kind of like, okay, that makes sense, I guess. So, I mean, most companies still use a demographic between male and female audiences. In fact, this channel is predominantly male. It's viewed by 80% men, and I don't know, maybe if I'm lucky, 20% female. Then you go over to the Let's Play channel, it's 50-50. So 50%, it's like split, like pure equality. Over here, the guys kind of dominate stuff because they just like this crap. I don't know. I mean, right now you're literally watching the Vicky Vale show, so I don't even have anything interesting to show you guys. I'm just talking from the hip, but yeah, it was really interesting to be on that call. And I've seen people on Twitter and stuff talking about, like, well, I mean, isn't it kind of mean to say that the Batgirl movie was bad? It's like, well, I mean, better that the directors learn that than when they make another movie for another studio, which they probably will. I don't think they'll come back to Warner Brothers. Although Warner Brothers promised to give everybody involved with Batgirl, Michael Keaton, Leslie Grace, Brendan Fraser, I probably already said Keaton, but it's like almost 2 in the morning. Going to give all those people attached to those movies that were canceled, like, other projects to do. I don't know what those other projects will be, but they're going to use those stars for other things because they still consider those people Warner Brothers stars. They haven't said the same thing for The Flash, and the Supergirl movie was never really set in stone yet. It was part of the post-DCEU after The Flash, so Blue Beetle actually, beat them to the punch and filmed their movie first, And apparently, so far, their movie has been getting really good praise, I guess you could say. But, I mean, they brought their A game. And also, they probably made their movie in a way that you can actually change things to fit in with the certain continuity. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Shazam originally was going to be about, like, the Shazam 2 was going to be about the new DCEU. And that's why Wonder Woman was going to show up in the movie, and they were going to kind of explain some changes a little bit. But now what they ended up doing, they used stock footage from the Snyder Cut, just like they used in the trailer, and you're going to see, if, you know, I hear correctly from the screenings that happen, you're going to see archive footage of Superman, Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck. Probably not the Flash, because things are a little up there, you know, Ezra's kind of do-do-do-do-do-do-do. But you'll see Aquaman and Gal Gadot, and you'll actually see Gal Gadot in the flesh, kind of, in the movie. So, I mean, they already went and they tweaked some things that were different in the original thing for Shazam 2, because in the original lineup for these movies, Shazam came after The Flash, and then Aquaman came after that, and then Batgirl, and then it was supposed to be Blue Beetle, and then Supergirl, and then Black Canary. And Black Canary was supposed to spin off from, I think, Batgirl. Yeah, Black Canary has a thing where Michael Keaton sends her off to do something, and that leads into her movie. I believe she's looking into the League of Assassins or something like that. But all the post-production stuff is gone. Like, it's just the only one that survived so far, and is probably going to be fine, is Blue Beetle. And I really want to hear more about the Blue Beetle stuff, because I really think you can insert Ben Affleck into that, whatever Keaton's role was going to be, because they were going to put Keaton in like 6 or 7 post-production or post-Flash movies. So you just do that with Ben Affleck now, or Jason Momoa or whatever, and you recruit these people for a Justice League movie in like 5-6 years or something. So I think Blue Beetle went about it the smart way, and unfortunately it just comes down to the bad writing of Batgirl. If they would have had a different writer, if they would have had a different story in mind of not replacing an older Batman and, you know, frowning on him and not giving him the No Way Home treatment. The only reason that I think the Flash movie survived is because they were very respectful of Keaton. Keaton really shines in the movie. All the things that you love about Michael Keaton's Batman, you know, him being like this hardcore, awesome hero and, you know, very quiet and imposing figure, you're going to see that in the Flash. You're also going to see him die over and over and over and over again fighting Zod, but it's going to be really cool deaths. And then I guess we'll see how the movie ends now, because before it was going to end with Michael Keaton surviving and being the only Batman, and Ben Affleck being, you know, cast somewhere in the multiverse, trying to get Barry to come back and either help them or get them out for wherever they are. Because the original plan was to shelve the Snyderverse, or the old DCEU, and then everybody would come back in like a future movie, like Final Crisis or some big galactic event, where old would meet the new. And now that's all not the plan. So we don't know what the full plan is. It's only speculation. Out of all of the old, new DC projects, only Blue Beetle has survived unscathed. The Flash, like it or not, is still coming out. There's no way that they're going to eat the cost. Whether or not Ezra ends up in jail or ends up like doing that weird cult stuff that he's up to, it doesn't matter. What is happening, though, is that is Ezra's last movie with Warner Brothers and DC. They're done. So whatever performance you see of The Flash, my guess is sometime in the movie, like his last appearance in like reshoots, it's going to be another actor playing Barry Allen. Because like during all the time travel shenanigans, he's probably going to get his face morphed or something. And, you know, Ezra will become whatever actor they choose to replace him with. That's just probably what would be the most logical step forward. But, you know, because it would be kind of weird to do the Don Cheadle thing. You have Barry Allen look a certain way in the Flash movie that he starred in, and then the next Flash movie or the next appearance you have, say, Grant Gustin or someone else. Who's the person they're also trying to get? What's his name? The guy who was going to be in Nightwing. Crap. I forgot his name. Dylan O'Brien, there it is. So let's say you have Dylan O'Brien show up like in another movie as the Flash, and people would just be kind of like, what's going on? So you would have to introduce whoever is going to become the new Flash in the Flash movie. But they would, you know, kind of pay it off like, oh, okay, this is Barry. He just looks different. Because that's what they were doing with Keaton. At the end of the movie, spoilers, Flash and Keaton meet up, and he's happy that, you know, Keaton's still Batman, but he's not Ben Affleck. But he's also not the 89 Batman he met. He's a Batman that has the appearance of Michael Keaton, and he's around the same age as Michael Keaton. They were going to make him a little bit younger. He wasn't going to quite be like 70 years old. The actor is 70 years old. He was going to be older, but he wasn't going to be like, you know, grandfather, because he was still going to have to get around the DC universe and meet up with Aquaman and all these other people. And, you know, because a guy who's that old can't really jet around the world like popping up in other people's movies. So they had to make him a little bit younger. He's probably in his 60s or something like that for Bruce Wayne. But all that doesn't really matter now. Like, they're going to have to rearrange stuff about the Flash. They're probably going to have to do, like, a scene involving more with Ben Affleck. But we don't really know what they're going to do in terms of reshoots with that movie, if they're going to do reshoots at all. But they're going to have to do something that's going to change what the original ending was going to be. And I have no idea what that would be. I'm just... The thing that I'm amazed about, honestly, is how everything went down. Like, I thought in the earnings call, for sure, they were going to announce, like, the 70% layoffs, which was going to cause people to freak out, because there were people today... I don't know if you saw this, but I follow a lot of Warner Brothers companies. There was a bunch of people tweeting how they're not connected to Warner Brothers, because they were actually worried about, you know, what's going to happen to my job. You had people associated with the Multiverses game. Tony and some other people were retweeting. Just so you guys know, we're not really technically affiliated with Warner Brothers. We work with them, so our game is probably fine. So there were people panicking because, I mean, this guy has set a precedent, like, which is awesome. People fear him because they don't know what he's going to do. He doesn't follow the Hollywood playbook. In fact, when he was running the Discovery Channel, or the Discovery Company, he wasn't in California. He was in his offices in New York. So I don't even think he's going to relocate to California. I don't really see that happening. What I do find funny, though, I'm going to tell you this. During the Discovery earnings, I really wish the Snyder people would stop doing this. Oh my gosh. Right outside the Discovery building, it was either today or yesterday, they were running the Restore the Snyderverse billboard again, right near David's office. And it's just like, guys, you got to stop, because in some capacity, the Snyderverse has been restored, but it's like, enough is enough. You're going to drive these people, like, to be like, okay, you know what, just out of spite, we're going to bring back all the other stuff that people hated. And, you know, you just got to slow down a little bit, because, you know, enough, you got to, everything in moderation, okay? It's just, don't overdo it. Because if you get these people mad, I mean, we don't know how far, they went this far to get rid of all the new stuff. You don't want them to be like, that's it, we're just going to do a full-blown yeet, get rid of everything now, because that'll teach the entitled fanboys. So you got to just, you know, goose for ba. Just take the wins that you get, and, you know, just don't push too hard, because your Zack Snyder figurehead person, he's busy overdoing Netflix stuff. You got Ben Affleck showing up in Aquaman. That's a very big deal, because they had to rewrite things to include him. Because you had elderly Keaton showing up and having a completely different scene with Jason Momoa. He was recruiting Jason Momoa to the Justice League because Aquaman and Batman had never met. In this movie, Aquaman and Batman are friends. So it's like two friends meeting up and talking about Justice League business. It's completely different. It's not the same. I've heard about Keaton's scenes from the test screening. He was there to recruit Aquaman for the Justice League, because in this new shared universe, the Justice League hadn't happened yet. Whereas at the end of the Snyder Cut and Joss Whedon's Justice League, they're discussing the Justice League and who the members will be, and room for more. Now, a smart person would do is take that same principle, and if Ben Affleck is still up to it, have him appear in the Blue Beetle movie or the Shazam movie and recite that line, room for more. And he can use that to go and recruit Shazam, go and recruit Blue Beetle, and then, you know, whatever else they end up doing. Like, maybe Black Canary will end up still getting her movie. I don't know. It's very difficult to understand what from Warner Media is going to survive, because from my point of view, everything canceled is what was green-lighted during the merger of Discovery and Warner Brothers. Every project that happened technically did not happen under Discovery's watch. Discovery came into power in April. all these movies with Batgirl and Supergirl and all this stuff that was charted out, the deal with J.J. Abrams and Warner Media, the Black Superman thing, all of this stuff was Warner Media. Warner Media had some plans. And I know people have been trying to do the whole Zaslav thing. It's like, Heath Ledger, he's just, I wouldn't know what to do with a car when I caught it. That kind of, just a dog chasing cars. I really believe that Zaslav has a plan. And the fact that he convinced Alan Horn, who was supposed to be retiring from entertainment, mind you. Like, he'd done his stuff with Nolan, and then he went over to Marvel and worked with Kevin Feige. The man, he's ready for retirement. He's getting near his golden years, right? Somehow, this dude from New York convinces Alan Horn, who's ready to retire and live up the rest of his life, in style or whatever, come back and work for Warner Brothers. And you have to, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. You have this super successful guy, and you got another guy who's successful with one part of the business, Discovery, but he's inheriting a huge mess with Warner Brothers and DC Comics. And he's approaching this super successful guy like, hey, why don't you come work for me? And Alan Horn is like, yeah, of course, I'll come back to Warner Brothers. I mean, oh, gosh, what happened to it? It's gone for 10 years. Oh, my God. Why come back? I mean, yeah, people say money. It's like, of course, he probably offered him, like, a decent amount of money, but the guy didn't have to say yes. Obviously, they charted out some type of plan that's going to involve Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman content. Now, all they had to do during San Diego Comic-Con was just announce one Superman-related thing. I know that everybody was finalizing what was going to happen at the meeting today or whatever, and the meeting before, because how a lot of this news is going to happen is it's always going to leak before these, major, business briefings. That's how David does things. All these rumors with DC Comics getting gutted and, 70% of their workforce getting cut and restructuring and all this other stuff. A lot of this is just going to end up one day just going like, boom. No one's going to see it coming. It's just going to be business as usual one day, and then you're going to find out Jim Lee's been fired and replaced with, say, Jeff Johns or something. They're not going to really give heads up to companies like the Rolling Stone or the New York Post or, any of those people. And we've already seen that right now. Like, Hollywood has no idea what this new CEO is doing because that's not how they do things. Just out of guilt, if you were to make a movie like Batgirl, you would have to release it just because of the people involved with it. Because if you cancel the movie, you're going to look like all kinds of bad things. Even if it's like about profit margins and how your movie is structured and how much your company is kind of like sinking above, below the water, and you're just continuing to go down as you take on all these projects and you're just sinking and sinking, sinking, sinking. Like, if you do anything to bail out, then you're in the wrong because you're a big corporation. And Warner Brothers has been really bad shape for years. And it's going to take a while for even Alan Horn and David Zaslav and his team to kind of, start getting the submarine to submerge again. Because right now, it's still being pushed down by all this garbage. And a lot of this stuff with Ezra Miller, it's like, I really don't know how they're going to successfully release the Flash movie. That, to me, it's just like, out of all the crazy stuff that happened, the Scooby-Doo movie and the Batgirl thing and all the post-production thingies after the Flash, pretty much all being canceled except for like 2 so far. It just feels like, how are they going to successfully do the Flash movie? Like, are they going to delay it another year and push Blue Beetle up in its place? Like, have Flash come out in December or January or March of 2024 and have Blue Beetle be the big summer movie or the big fall movie and be like, hey, look, we're going to put Ben Affleck in this movie and maybe another Justice Leaguer will show up. You have to go see Blue Beetle to see who the cameo is. Except everybody will figure out who the cameo is because they'll be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so was down on reshoots at Blue Beetle. That's the problem with the internet now is there's no surprises anymore. Like, you have all these dedicated Twitter sites and all these like YouTubers that their entire thing is to find out what these stars are doing, to basically stalk them. And then these studios that are trying to keep surprises that certain characters are going to be in this, you'll always know. If you're on the internet, you'll know. There's no way you can escape it. It's impossible. So just like we were able to discern so quickly who Deathstroke was in Justice League, they tried to hide it, but literally within, I think it was 6 hours of finding out that guy was in the same town as the Justice League filming, people put 2 to 2 together and said that actor was going to end up playing Deathstroke or some type of villain. And sure enough, they had to leak that it was that actor playing Deathstroke. And he was just there actually for a costume fitting for Ben Affleck's movie. So he was there with Ben talking about Batman, and then Ben did a costume test with Deathstroke coming out of the Flying Fox. And then the footage, of course, he put on his Twitter, and then people were like, we think blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it just all kind of spiraled from there. So, I mean, keeping secrets from the internet is kind of impossible. But I think that sometimes that can actually really benefit a movie. Like right now, the only thing that people are talking about the Aquaman movie is Ben Affleck. Like, they're not even concerned about the whole Amber Heard situation because, I mean, we don't even know how much of a presence, if at all, she's going to have in the movie or not. They're probably going to replace her with the character Dolphin. And you can actually look in the DC Comics who that is. But I think it'd be kind of weird to have Aquaman and Dolphin have, like, a romance. But, I mean, if Mira's not going to have Aquaman's son, you could technically have Mira killed off at the beginning of the movie. They could even do the horrible thing they did in Mortal Kombat Annihilation where you had Johnny Cage show up and it was Johnny Cage, but hey, that's not Johnny. And then Johnny died and you were just like, oh no, Johnny's gone, but who's this? So I'm not saying to do that. That was a lot of people always criticize, killing off Johnny Cage like that. But the actor wouldn't come back. So it's like, what are you going to do? He found out he was going to die in the movie. And I think that because he liked the character so much, why would he want to reprise the role if his character's literally going to die in the first 5 minutes of the movie? So you get a guy that kind of looks like him, and then, that's kind of what happened to Johnny. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to Amber Heard, but the fact that Ben Affleck has more interesting presence than Keaton does, and the fact that it still adheres to the old way of filmmaking, it's kind of funny to me. It really is. Because before, it was always going to be like this new mindset that, we have to do everything that Twitter dictates. Because that's what Warner Media did. Warner Media was always on social media, always looking at not necessarily the Twitter trends. They saw the Twitter trends. Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, like just poning everybody weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend. Hundreds of thousands, blah, 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 blah. And then when they were charting together their stuff, they would see like one random person would retweet like an idea like, let's have, just putting this out there, I'm not trying to do anything, but let's have Black Batgirl, and they get like maybe 40,000 social media thingies, and then a Warner employee sees that, Warner Media, and they're like, oh, okay, I think that's a great idea. Let's do this with Batgirl, but let's change who she is. And what's that's going to do for Warner Media, how they succeeded for a while, even though they were in debt, is they were drumming up a lot of free publicity for their movies built on controversy. Because every time they would do something, they would take an iconic character and they would change them just a little bit so that they could get the internet all like, Ree! And then they didn't have to really foot the bill for any type of advertising. But what they were doing, and which David doesn't like, is they were damaging the brand. They were damaging that character, and they were causing animosity associated with their brand. David doesn't want to do that. The free publicity, yeah, whatever. But at the same time, you have to be respectful to these characters and to who they are, or you're going to cause a lot of brand dissension, and it's going to be disastrous in the long run, because your loyal fan base is not going to be there when you really need them to go to the movies, because you have to have your fans to push your stuff forward. And what we've seen, especially with DC Comics right now, is they've changed DC Comics so much that they are barely afloat, because most of their fan base have left. They've gone to independent comics, they've gone to manga, or they've just stuck with one type of media for Warner Brothers characters, whether it be going to the movies to see and support the Batman, watching the Harley Quinn show, or watching Titans, if there is a huge demographic for that. Buying, old stuff on DVD and Blu-ray, like Batman the Animated Series, maybe getting HBO Max. But they're not buying the comics anymore, because the comics, they keep going too far, pushing the envelope, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And their audience just keeps dwindling and dwindling and dwindling until it's just going to dry up and blow away. Because the people on Twitter are not going to support you financially the way that you had all these poll listers and people who were fans for 30, 40, 25, 15 years. They're gone. And more of them are leaving by the day that you continue to smear these characters. Tim Drake's fan base is dwindling, not growing. It's growing with one demographic of 1% of a group, but the rest of Tim Drake's fans are getting less and less and less interested. One of the worst books that DC has put out recently is the Young Justice comic. It is one of the worst comics I've ever read because they go out of their way not only to do self-inserts, but they blast the more successful Young Justice comic books from the 90s. Like Young Justice in the 90s sold anywhere between 250,000 to 230,000 copies an issue. Young Justice, when it came back under Bendis, couldn't even crack 100,000 at all. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And the book is just beyond pandering. It's terrible writing. It's some of the worst fan fiction that I've ever read. Almost to the point where I was in tears seeing how much they were smearing the fantastic 90s Young Justice books and characters. It was like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about it. It's almost like having some type of mental shock, And these writers who are doing this stuff, they're not even talented enough to write anywhere near the caliber of what we had 30 years ago. And here they are making fun of it, like, look at how dumb we were in this when we were doing this. Oh yeah, I remember that. And it's like, oh man, he used the wrong pronouns for me. And it's just like, oh my god. It's terrible. And the whole book is like that. They even have, like, Robin getting all upset over Batman. I just want to say this because I find this stupid. The character of Robin is having an argument with Batman because he's like, someday you'll become Batman again and you can get back with Stephanie. And Robin's like, but I'm with Bernard. And then Batman's like, okay, well, it's just a phase. You'll get out of it. And then Robin's like, how dare you? I'm with a man now. And if it was really Batman and the guy's bi, wouldn't he be just like, I thought you liked girls too. Why is there a problem with you? You're like, ew, disgusting girls. It's like, but if you're really that way, what would be the problem with being with Stephanie? Isn't it, you get both? Isn't that how that works? So, I mean, it seems like DC Comics just doesn't have a plan with their books. It just continues to spiral out of control. And people that are reading these issues, they don't come back. And the fans just get so, I don't even know the word. It's like, not just enraged, but like heartbroken. Because these are characters you've known for like 30, 40 years, maybe 25, maybe 15. Maybe they took you out of like a really bad spot in your life, and you looked up to these characters as like heroes. They're not heroes anymore. They're zeros. They're nothings. They're not even a shell of their former selves. They don't do anything heroic. They just sit around complaining all the time. It's like that one period of time where you just had hipsters sitting around drinking coffee and complaining about the world. That's what comic books are now. They don't really do anything heroic. Half the time in that Young Justice issue, they're just complaining all the time about how things today... There's literally a panel, like 2 panels of them just complaining about all current worldwide issues, things that are happening right now in 2022. And there's like a huge panel of it. Just everything, just writing everything out that the author just doesn't like. Boom, 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 boom. All the characters sitting there drinking their coffee or whatever. And it's like they're supposed to be doing things that are just standing around. Can you believe how much better the world is now because of this, this, and this, and this? Oh yeah, in the 90s we didn't have this. That's the book. And I'm just like, what the... Excuse me. So, I mean, DC Comics is in danger of Zaslav, and they can't even see it. They're like those hipsters. They're just sitting around drinking the coffee. I don't even know if hipsters exist anymore. I just remember that from a time. And they're just thinking they're invincible because of whatever. And they're not. And what's going to happen one of these days, because it happened with DC Films, these people are thinking, Warner Media, we're going to do whatever we want. We're going to cast whoever we want. We're going to cause whatever controversy we want. We're going to get rid of the Snyderverse because we don't like them because they're, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. We don't want that. We want Batgirl, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman. People want that more. No, they don't. But we're going to do it anyway. And they're just, set in their ways and doing all this other stuff. And then in comes Zaslav, and he's like, BAM! Right in the face. It's just like, you're done, get out. this is our plan now. Well, what's your plan? My plan is Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And then you do all these other characters attached to them. Have, for your Batman movie, let's introduce Batgirl. Boom. Hey, you met Batgirl in the Batman movie, right? Yeah, okay. Give her a movie. Okay, what's next? All right, people want Man of Steel too, right? We're not going to do the Zack Snyder thing. Let's do a Superman movie, but let's introduce Supergirl into it midway through. That way the audience gets to know, hey, you got to see a lot of Superman, but how does Superman interact with his cousin? And it's like, did you like Supergirl in the movie? Okay, cool. We're going to give Supergirl her own movie. But you don't introduce these characters without putting they need that pillar. And that pillar is Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. And then you go to the sidekicks and the partner characters, and you keep branching off from that. Then the sidekick characters have other characters that they like. And this is the thing that Alan Horn and Zaslav and the new Warner Brothers understands is you need the pillars first, and then you erect other parts of the building and keep adding to it, which is exactly what the MCU did. So if they really stick to that type of format, then things are going to get really good. But if they go to the Warner Media thing of being like, okay, let's take out the DC Bible, and let's look through different characters that we can do. Okay, Batman has these characters attached to him, but we're not going to use Batman. Let's make a movie about Barbara. But we don't want to use a lot of Barbara's personality, so let's mix some of her personality with Batwoman and Black Canary, and we're going to make our own Batgirl. We're not going to make DC Comics Batgirl. We're going to make our studio version. Okay, so she's getting movie. Let's look at Supergirl. No, Supergirl's too optimistic. We don't like that. Is there a grumpier version of Supergirl we can use? Okay, let's take that idea, and then let's combine this other Superman character and give that Kara's traits, and then boom, we have our Supergirl. And this is the words that Warner Brothers was using before, which was very problematic. We're making our Supergirl, our Batgirl, not DC Comics Batgirl, because their personality is a problem. We don't want that. We want our version of the character only, you know? And that back then sent off like so many bells and whistles. It's like, wait a second. It's like, why can't you just do Batgirl? Why can't you just do Supergirl the way that they are? They just have to keep changing them to fit whatever their thing is. And that was always kind of like, why? You know, that's not... I can guarantee you, if the Batgirl movie was a accurate representation of the Barbara Gordon character, the movie wouldn't have been canceled. But the fact that the writer took inspirations from other things that weren't really associated with Barbara Gordon's character and implemented that into the movie, the writing is responsible for the film being trashed, because there's no way you can salvage it. Whereas Blue Beetle, from what we hear, did a really, really, really good job with the story, with the characters, and it's just, I really want to see it, you know? I'm not a big Blue Beetle person, but I'm excited for the Cobra Kai star, and I want to learn more. I think Jaime is a cool character, but I only know Jaime through Batman, which, let me back up. I know he's not a Batman character, but Jaime was in Batman Brave and the Bold. He really started to propel out in the mainstream because of Batman Brave and the Bold, even though it was a goofy show. Jaime was one of the most popular characters in the show. It's true. If you go back and you look at the polls of characters from Batman Brave and the Bold, Jaime was like way high. Higher than like the Nightwing character or any of the other Bat characters. Like the only other character that was higher than Jaime, or like right around there, was Aquaman. And that's because his version of Aquaman was hilarious in that. You know, outrageous! They really took characters that weren't really associated with Batman, other than the Batman Brave and the Bold comic books, or rather Brave and the Bold comics from the Silver Age. And they incorporated different stories. They injected Batman into it, because a lot of Brave and the Bold stuff was the Flash teaming up with somebody else, and Green Arrow and Green Lantern, Blue Beetle, like Ted Kord and Batman, sometimes Superman. It was basically like a fun team-up thing that DC did for, I don't know, about 15 years or so. And then it came back off and on throughout like the 90s and early 2000s. But they incorporated a lot of Silver Age stuff, and because of Batman, they were able to really build these characters up. And it did really, really well. So, I mean, I was kind of bored with the meeting. I listened to it as much as I could. I did gnaw off a little bit once in a while, because, I mean, they were doing all these numbers and explaining things, and the merger and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, when are they going to talk about DC stuff? Okay, there we go. All right, I'm on board. What's going on? Okay, cool. Whoa. But I'm still sitting here with you guys. I'm just completely floored with what happened. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting that, based on what other people had said, that when the merger happened, that nothing was going to change. There was David Zaslav and company were just going to sit back, let Warner Media do their thing, and we were going to get 2 years of really bad movies. And then they would be like, okay, we know how the business is run now, so you're thrown out. Reboot everything, get someone else in here. And that's not what happened. So, I mean, it just goes to show you that sometimes when you bring a fresh perspective from somewhere else that's not California and you introduce it into the entertainment world, it can actually be a really good thing. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, like, scorched earth for a while, but, I mean, that's to be expected. You have to understand that Warner Brothers has been operating at a loss for years, and they've never course corrected. There's going to be a lot of good that's going to come from this, and there's going to be a lot of bad. I wanted, honestly, when I was listening to the event, there was one thing I really wanted them to bring up that they never did. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Because most of the video game division, we haven't really heard a lot about, right? And I'm thinking, okay, so we didn't get anything at E3. We didn't get anything all summer. And we don't know what David thinks about the video game side. And the biggest disappointment for me was listening to this podcast thing was they didn't bring up gaming at all. Like, what is your plan for gaming? We got a 10-year plan for films now. That's fantastic, but do you know what's been going on in the gaming scene? For, like, DC gamers have been starved for content for almost half a decade. Like, we had this... how many of you... Raise your hands, please. How many of you guys and gals in the chat, how many of you thought that we were going to get an Assassin's Creed-style franchise with the Batman Arkham games? There's no wrong answer here. How many of you thought that Warner Brothers was going to milk the crap out of Batman Arkham-style games for, like, the next 5 years or so? Just say aye or yes in the chat. And, okay, see a lot of hand raised. And to me, that seemed like it was a very simple concept, because originally, when Assassin's Creed happened, you know that they only planned to do a trilogy, right? But the franchise became so successful with an install base that they just kept pumping out more and more and more Assassin's Creed games. And now here we are almost 20 years later, and they're still releasing Assassin's Creed games. Warner Brothers was able to find a hit franchise, right? 5 years ago that lasted 4 games. And even though, you know, some people don't like Arkham Origins as much as Rocksteady's thing, you have to admit that Arkham Origins was not a terrible game. It stuck to the same gameplay style. It introduced some new aspects to the franchise, and people loved playing the game, because when you were sitting there playing Arkham Origins and going from Asylum to City to Origins to Night, there was a familiarity to it, wasn't there? It was like, okay, that's just like when you play an Assassin's Creed game. Yeah, you're playing a different Assassin's Creed game, whether it's in Egypt or it's in Greece, or it's in the modern day, or whatever. There is this type of familiarity to the gameplay that you can just sit there and appreciate the new stuff, but also expect what the game is going to play like. And you just continue. I'm guilty of it too. I have at least 10 Assassin's Creed games. I've covered some of them on this channel. The gameplay is very simple for me. They add some different nuances to it once in a while, but the core rudimentary of Assassin's Creed is the same as the very first game. And I was naive in thinking that Warner Brothers would continue to do that type of stuff with Batman, because they literally had a hit on their hands. It didn't matter that Rocksteady wanted to be done with the franchise and finish with their story. That's great. But there was a whole sandbox that really talented developers could have played with for the next 10 years, doing prequel games, doing spin-offs, whatever, using that same format. And what did they do, gang? They let the franchise sit and sit and sit until it died. And then Warner Brothers Games Montreal gave us Gotham Knights. And as excited as I am for Gotham Knights, it's not Arkham. The gameplay is not Arkham. I've sit here rewatching the gameplay footage of Batgirl, and I can critique it, and I could probably not like some aspects of it, but the more that I look at it, it's a completely different game. There's some familiarity, yes, but it's not Arkham at all. There's no counter. The stealth stuff is handled very similar to Arkham. The characters kind of jump around like it's the Avengers game. And it's going to be a new experience for us, and we're all going to have to adjust. But it's not the same experience. Warner Brothers had the ability, since the end of Arkham Knight, to plan out things, and they did. There were developers that came forward and made other Arkham-type games, whether they starred Damian, or whether it was a prequel with Dick Grayson and Batman. And what they did was nothing. They chose to do absolutely nothing with that. And all they did was hurt their profit margins. I don't think they actually would have been bought by Discovery if they weren't in the dire shape that they are. They forewent their video game division, and they're still not really doing a lot with their video game division, to the point where the people of Multiverse, like the past 11 hours, were tweeting, "Oh my gosh, we don't know what's happening at this meeting." Everybody was running scared from David. They're just, "Oh my gosh, what is going to happen? We're still going to have a job? What's our association with Warner Brothers? They're having like this crazy, did you see what he did to the Batgirl movie?" That's fear. That's the difference that David has compared to other CEOs. He's more like Batman than any other figure that we have in the industry right now. I mean, you can't buy that kind of power. He did one executive thing, and it got the entire internet talking overnight. Just one thing, you know? And because of that, nobody had any idea what was happening in today's call. Nobody. There were a couple rumors, yeah, HBO Max and Discovery were going to merge. But nobody had any idea what the direction of DC Films was going to be. So I was thinking, you know, after they did the whole DC Films thing, I was like, okay, great. I'm pumped now. He talked about DC. He talked about the films. What's going on with video games? Nothing. Nothing. They teased the Wonder Woman thing at the DC fandom thing because that studio was probably, like I told you guys before, there were a bunch of these game companies that were trying to put their cards on the table for when the new owners are coming in, like, hey, don't get rid of us. We've got these great projects in the pipeline, like this Wonder Woman game that it's not just a promo video, it's real. We're really working on it. Here, see it. Wonder Woman, boom. You like Wonder Woman, right? New CEO guy? Okay, here's Wonder Woman. And, you know, they were hardcore working on multiverses, so the multiverses thing was pretty cool. But all the other stuff, you know, it just felt like these studios were trying to show their hand, like, please don't get rid of us, because it was David's thing before Warner Media that they were going to chop up and sell WB Games. It was just chop. Take different studios, sell the licenses, because they were trying to find ways of saving money. And then right after those like talks with Microsoft and PlayStation and all these other people, then the DC fandom thing happened, and DC's like video game division showed their hand of games that they have in development, quote unquote development. So yeah, it feels like if the merger or whatever hadn't really happened, I don't think they would have gone out of their way to do stuff like that, because I mean we still haven't heard a whisper on anything Wonder Woman. They showed the trailer. I think they have like maybe they have a Discord. I don't remember. I might be signed up for something. I don't recall. I've been very heavily with multiverses for months now. Always on their Discord, always doing stuff. And I love multiverses. I think it's great. It's not better than Smash Brothers, but I really like it. I play it like almost every other night. I'm kind of addicted to it. But anyway, yeah, it didn't really feel like they have like a whole thing charted out for us. You know, this year it's just like Harry Potter and Gotham Knights, which Gotham Knights is fine. Everybody's worried like, oh my gosh, Batgirl was near finished. No, that's misinformation. Batgirl was finished filming and was in post-production, but they still had reshoots and they still had other things that they had to go over. They had to pass the test screening before they can release the movie, and they had 2 test screenings and they failed both. That's not good. I don't know why anybody is saying, "Oh my gosh, this movie was so good. I can't believe they canceled." No, you don't cancel a good movie. Unless it's a pup named Scooby-Doo, but even that movie I've heard has problems. But, I mean, they probably canceled... I'm just throwing it out here. This is just projection or, a theory, but it feels like to take away some of the heat from canceling Batgirl, that they had to pick a movie that was done that they could cancel too, so that it didn't look super shady. I really think that Scooby-Doo was just a victim of random choice. Like, here's Batgirl. Batgirl had reasons for being canceled, but oh my gosh, because worried about being canceled on Twitter for a decision of getting rid of a female actress. What can we do? What can we do? Well, that Scooby-Doo movie's releasing. Not anymore. Scooby's dead. What? But it's ready, sir. Nope. Sorry, there has to be 2 casualties. Scooby's it. Ruh-roh. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't have any, clairvoyance on that. It's interesting that it was those 2 movies that were just randomly, Batgirl had reasons, but Scooby was actually doing really well. And it's just like, yeet. Like, there's always been a Scooby-Doo movie, like, almost every year to direct a video. It just feels like they had to pick out a couple other things to get rid of. But what didn't make the news, did you know they actually pulled a lot of exclusive movies from HBO Max, like the same day they canceled Batgirl? But that stuff didn't make the news. These were, like, projects that they actually financed and they did stuff with, and they were up on HBO Max, and they just quietly yeeted them. And it didn't make the news until, like, 3 days later. They did all that stuff the same day. Batgirl died, Scooby died, and these 7 other movies that were on HBO Max just gone. There's nothing. And now people are finally talking about it. They're like, oh my gosh, how many things were going on at once? It's like, this man is a ninja. You don't know what he's going to do. So, I mean, I really think there's some validation to that rumor that he is going to gut DC Comics. I don't disbelieve that anymore. I was thinking, well, I mean, DC Comics has been around for 80 years. There's no way. There's no way that it's just going to up and change and disappear. And I'm just speaking, honestly, DC Comics, the regime in charge of that, they're insane. How are you going to get rid of them? They're like literally rooted into the roots of DC. Like they're there. They're ruining comic after comic after comic after comic. How are you going to fix that? At this point, I'm never buying anything other than Nightwing and maybe the Wally West books, because I gambled and I was like, okay, how bad can Young Justice be? Oh my God. So yeah, I as a pessimist, I can't see how they're going to fix it. But I mean, I guess, for an outsider looking at DC Films and what their direction was going to be for the next 3 years, everybody was like, well, did you guys ever go on Facebook and you saw like things like showing Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill being like, this respect the past? And then like a couple weeks ago, there's an image with Batgirl and Supergirl standing there and they said, accept the present. And I was just like, so respect the past. So you're saying Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck is the past, and then accept the present is Sasha Calle and Leslie Grace are the present. And it's like, well, that post aged like milk. But I mean, you had like DC doing this kind of stuff all the time on social media places and Instagram, and it's just kind of like, okay, so what now? What are you going to do? Are we going back to the full past? And I know people are going to be like, well, how in the world can they resurrect the Snyderverse? It's like, you really can't. But it's like, you have to understand that the Snyderverse is just a name. It's the actors that made the Snyderverse what it is. And if you can get some of them back, I think that they can continue doing something with the DCEU. But the only reason it became the Snyderverse is because the Justice League movie was so bad that they, the director had to do his own, 4-hour vision of it, which was fantastic, but I will never watch it again fully because it's 4 hours long. I mean, the amount of streaming I do every day, just for me personally, I mean, I love the movie. I thought it was amazing, but I can't sit through and watch it again. It's too long. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. I know Kathleen Kennedy screwed up Star Wars, but this but this is insane that WB is following Kennedy's lead. They're not really following Kennedy's lead, though. I mean, they just basically, Kathleen Kennedy was like the new direction of DC Films. Like, the Force is female, all this other stuff. Everything that happened to Disney, Zaslav basically prevented. Like, I mean, we would have had exactly what happened with Star Wars with DC. So, I mean, he saved the brand of films. DC Comics, in the whole, their brand is already tarnished. Somebody should tell them that. It's like, sir, have you actually read a recent comic? I would love to somehow, just for a day, just in theory, meet David Zaslav in New York City as a temporary employee, with my, maybe I could get in under disability because you guys know I have a nerve disease in my leg. I have to use a cane to walk around. Cane like Batman Beyond. I get like a temp position for a day, and I meet him, and I'd be like, oh, sir, this is the newest issue of DC Comics. And I give him an issue of Young Justice. That's all I have to do. I just give him the brand new Young Justice Dark Crisis and be like, Jim Lee wanted you to see this. And just... Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, young man. No problem. You have a great day, sir. And I would love to see what happens after he read it. Oh, because I don't think he has any idea what's going on with DC Comics. Like, he's talking with it with such like a childlike wonder to these characters. I think he has no idea what Jim Lee and DC is actually doing. Yet, I think he will eventually. But I mean, just to speed up the process. Yeah, there you go. I'm so bad. But it would be funny. It would be so funny. Oh. Oh my gosh. I would love to see something like that. I would challenge somebody to do that, but just be respectful. You pose as an employee. You go in, you give them the Dark Crisis, Young Justice. That's all you have to do. That book is filled with so many wondrous treasures about DC Comics today that all it would take is one issue, just one, even one panel, just that one page, and then you would see a hurricane happen to DC Comics. Because the sad thing is, most of the comic books right now at DC all follow that format. They all are like Young Justice, Dark Crisis. Except for Nightwing. Nightwing's not bad. Nightwing is funny and charming and sweet. The dynamic between Barb and Dick is, you're almost like reading a Chuck Dixon or a Gal Simone book from like the Birds of Prey era. It's really good. I can't praise it enough. I'm waiting for Tom Taylor to screw it up. I am, because he's already messed up Superman. He's already messed up Batman. Every issue, I'm waiting for him to like really just Tom Taylor it, and it still hasn't happened. It's like, okay, it's still okay to read Nightwing. It's still fun. Okay, here we go. But I'm just waiting. Because remember, Tom Taylor's the guy who killed Nightwing with a rock. So I'm waiting for him to kill Nightwing in the books with stupidity. Because Tom Taylor, everything he touches is like... He doesn't have the Midas touch. He's got... You know that a Chinese proverb about that guy who had, like... He would touch you and you would die. Like, everything he touches brings death. That's who Tom Taylor is. But for whatever reason, the Nightwing books seem to be immune right now. Everything else he touches decays and dies. Yeah. I'm just waiting. I'm a pessimist, but I just... Eventually something's going to happen with that. One Punch Man. This has been the Vicky Vale Show. I really wish I had a graphic that said the K-Wing Show like this in Arkham. I just get somebody on Fiverr to make me a cool graphic like this. The K-Wing podcast. But I like the Vicky Vale sign. It's really nice. Oh my gosh. I think we went over everything that I was interested in. Wanted to hear them talk about video games. They didn't. The entire press call was like... it started at 4:30. And it ran until, I think, about 5:15, 5:35, 5:45. And they just went over a bunch of stuff. Nobody even cares about that stuff. But the Discovery thing was really interesting to me. I had no idea that Discovery was that big. Like, how? I'm sorry. I'm terrible. I had no idea that they were that big. No idea. I mean... 90 million subscribers on Discovery Plus. I can't even get Discovery Plus on my Switch. I don't even think I get Discovery Plus on my PS5, but I've got HBO Max on my PS5, and it's like, where are people downloading this app? Isn't that more subscribers than Netflix almost? Because didn't Netflix like bleed a bunch of subscribers? And why? I'm thankful. I am. I'm thankful for David. I think he's a little crazy. I mean, I was talking to Amber about this, and maybe you guys will see this illustration with me, but I feel that David Zaslav is a lot like Rachel Cool. I believe that he is one of those guys that believes a purging fire is necessary sometimes to save, the whole forest, so the whole forest doesn't burn down. Like, you set a particular part on fire and you contain that fire. It just feels like he's like that maniacal, guy that just and I still think we're going to see a lot more from him. I think he's going to be, if this was like a baseball team, he's the executive to watch, because you don't know what he's going to do. You have no idea if something doesn't meet his standard of quality, you're done. It's not like, oh, okay, well, I made this movie and I put all my blood, sweat, and tears in it. It's like, okay, great. Why don't you let me look at it, and I'll tell you what I think. You're fired. What? I spent my entire life on this. This was my art. Yeah, your art sucks. This is not the direction I want for this superhero, so hit the road, Jack. That's it. How much did we pay him working on the movie? Okay, you're done. Bye-bye. That's the kind of guy he is, and that's not how Hollywood is. So that's why it's kind of funny. It's just like running like a big corporation. That's what they do. If you don't put in the work, you're done. And right now, based on how bad Warner Brothers has been for 5-6 years, maybe almost 10 years, I think that they need this type of, very strict philosophy. Because, like, they're just going to continue to churn out crap. And if you have all this pressure on you to actually make a good product, I mean, you're not going to try to shortchange the studio, or you're not going to make shortcuts and just, try to interject a lot of stuff that people don't really care about. You're going to go out of your way and make a great movie the way that Blue Beetle did, and unfortunately the way that Andy did with The Flash. The Flash might actually be one of the best movies that we're going to see in years, if we ever get to see it. There's so much problems involved with it that it's like, I would just recast him. I don't see how you need a new Barry Allen. There's just so much controversy involved. In clear conscience, even if Ben Affleck is back in the movie or whatever, and Michael Keaton has like the most amazing portrayal ever, based on all the bad stuff that Ezra's done, it's just like, as a hardcore Batman fan, seeing these two guys in the movie, I am like becoming Two-Faced, because I'm being torn right down the center. Like, do I stick to my convictions, or do I go and watch my two heroes on screen and just ignore all the bad stuff? It's like, I don't like this like tug of war between, what my emotions are and what's right, and it's driving me crazy. It's like I'm feel like I'm being pulled apart, and then whatever's going to happen after that is going to be the person that either goes and supports the movie, or the person that stands out there with a sign like, this movie's the devil. I just so conflicted, and it's like, maybe I should just delay it another year until, I don't know, but at the same time, it's like, honestly, they should just recast The Flash, or find a way to make the movie about Batman and just have The Flash have like a really tiny role in it. I don't know. It feels like the movie, from what I've heard, the test screenings were all amazing. Like, people were floored by Michael Keaton's performance. Ben Affleck made them cry. The Flash was compelling, like the Barry Allen character, not the actor, but the Barry Allen character was like the pinnacle of the movie, and it just all worked. Even the Supergirl aspect of the movie worked. I don't know how that's going to work now, because Supergirl's not getting her movie anymore, but she did okay in it. I still think that she could stick around if she appeared in a Superman movie. I think that would work out fine. In fact, I even said this on my Twitter a while ago. I believe that both actresses who are no longer involved with their projects, when they make a new Batgirl or a Supergirl movie, out of good faith, Warner Brothers should go and approach them first and offer them the role. And if they say no, then recast them. But I think that they should, make the movie that they want for Batgirl, because a character's, like a person's way of life and how they are doesn't really change how the character is supposed to behave. Just because you look a certain way, it doesn't mean that you can't play that character. The problem is when you incorporate how you are as a person and change that character, then it doesn't become that character anymore. So if they're really playing Barbara Gordon, they need to play Barbara Gordon to the T, exactly how Barbara is. Just like when you play Batman, you have to basically become Batman. That's what acting is. So, offer them the roles first and see what happens after that. I think that's fair. I think everybody would be okay with that. I really think that Batgirl should show up in a Batman movie. Like whether it's Robert Pattinson, I think personally, based on who Commissioner Gordon is in the Matt Reeves movie, I think that they should find some way of incorporating Leslie Grace into one of the Batman movies. Whether it's the Batman 3 or the Batman 2. If they don't know what they're doing with Robin, why not do Batgirl for a little bit? And then spin off and have her own movie or something later, You don't have to just cast aside all these talented actors and actresses. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. Hang on. It sucks, but I get why Discovery won't do the Snyderverse. It's not product family friendly. Reboot Batman Superman Origin would work, but no race swap, sex swap. Yeah, I can agree to that. I don't believe it's the Snyderverse. Like, I had a bunch of people reach out to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, do you think it's like Snyderverse related stuff?" And I was like, "No, I don't." You realize that before it became the Snyderverse, it was the DCEU. So part of me really believes, Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill are still Batman and Superman, but you're expecting the Snyder story to continue, and I think you're going to be disappointed. I think you're going to be like, well, I mean, it's these characters. It's like, yeah, that's great, but these could be variants of another universe that just look like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, and they're playing Batman and Superman still. I don't think that the buildup that you had with the Snyder Cut is going to continue. Yeah, you might see Darkseid eventually, but I don't think it's going to be in the same aspect that Snyder had in. But they were very smart in Zack Snyder's Justice League because they mentioned the multiverse and that there's only one Darkseid. So in theory, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, technically the Snyderverse would be restored because Darkseid is the only Darkseid in the multiverse. So there you go. So even if he showed up and he started kicking Batgirl and Supergirl's butt, technically, that would be the Darkseid that met Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill's Superman. As crazy as that sounds. But that's what they did in the movie. They said, Darkseid, if you go back and watch the 4-hour Snyder Cut, in that movie, they mention the multiverse on numerous occasions, and that Darkseid is the only Darkseid in the multiverse. And he's been all over the multiverse searching for the anti-life equation. So, yeah, I mean, if you really wrap your head around that logic, then technically, yes, the Snyder Cut would be restored in some capacity, but I don't think the studio wants to associate with a lot of that fandom. Nothing personal. I mean, I kind of consider myself kind of a restore the Snyderverse person, but I think I have some tact a little bit. Like, I was kind of annoyed that they were doing in New York City again the restore the Snyderverse during the Discovery thing. I'm just like, like one of these days, David's gonna look out his office and he's just gonna throw a chair out the window, and that's gonna be it. He's just gonna go on a tirade, call a press conference, and just like say, "I'm done with DC films. I'm selling everything." Because I mean, the problem that I have with that fan base is they just keep pestering and 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 pestering until they get what they want, and it's like that's it worked once, but lightning is not going to continue to strike. In this aspect, I believe, yes, in some regard, it did work, and it did make interest in some of these actors. Like, I really believe, like, all the teasing and stuff that Henry Cavill will come back as Superman. I really, in my heart, believe that because The Rock's smile when he was talking about Superman, then the interview he had afterwards talking about how he really wants Henry, blah, 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 blah. And, the fact that Ben Affleck came back, where some people are like, well, it's just He wasn't under contract for it. They would have to sign a new contract with him to do stuff because his contract was fulfilled in The Flash. It was done. So how in the world did he show up in Aquaman? Especially, he replaced another actor, so they had to fill out some new contract. And I really wish I could get my hands on Ben's new contract because I want to know how many movies it consists of for cameos. And if he is getting his own movie, I want to know what's going on. And we're probably not going to know for years, and that's going to drive me batty. Because his contractual obligation of Batman was fulfilled in The Flash. Because the Batman movie that he was supposed to do, he only had a 3-picture deal. Remember? We talked about this? The 3-picture deal was BVS, Justice League 2. And then they were going to do a contract for the Batman movie once it was ready. So what he ended up doing was BVS, Justice League / Justice League Snyder Cut, which is still movie 2. And then the third movie was The Flash. That's 1, 2, 3 movies. That was his contract. And then after Justice League, he was supposed to sign a contract for another, I think it was like a 4 or 5 picture deal, and he did not sign it. And he didn't get the deal. And that deal would have included the Batman movie, parts 1 and 2, and then Justice League 2 and 3, and some other movie. But that never happened. So what did he do? This is why I wish I had better contacts in the film industry, because I don't know how he showed up. I don't think he just did a favor for Jason Momoa in the studio. But, I mean, he likes Alan Horn. So maybe Alan convinced him, or maybe there's a bigger plan involved with Warner Brothers and Ben Affleck that nobody knows about yet. Supposedly it was Alan Horn who helped introduce Ben Affleck to some people at Warner Brothers before he left. So, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. All of this is still making my head spin. I think it's a lot of good things, but I have no idea, And we're not always going to get, like, clear, concrete stuff until it actually happens. Like I said, this guy is... It's perfect. Like, in the background right now, see how there's a storm going on? That storm is David Zaslav. That's David. That's the storm. So the lightning is striking all the time, and he's doing stuff. But, we're too far away to know and feel the impact of what was responsible for the storm yet. Because it's off in the distance. A few days from now, we're going to find out about layoffs, or we'll find out about what's going on with Adult Swim. But it's like, as the events are happening, nobody has any idea. Unless you're lucky enough to follow somebody on social media that's, terrified about something, then yeah. But for the most part, you won't know about what the impact of the storm was until days later. If there were any layoffs, supposedly, which happened, then the media is not going to end up talking about it till probably Monday. Maybe tomorrow if we're lucky. Friday. It is Friday, isn't it? Today is Friday in California. Shoot! It is Friday, isn't it? Sweet, I can retweet that today. Woohoo! My one joy in life. I love that meme. So, yeah. We're probably not going to find out any other interesting things until probably Monday. That'd be my guess. If they start going after DC, it probably won't be till the fall. Although I thought it was going to be years from now. I thought they'd go after DC after their current run was wrapped up with Dark Crisis, and then have David, going through the roof. But the only other big thing I think they did today was announce that, and what's her name? Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn, which I guess is kind of cool. That is a multiverse, right? But the thing that I have to remind you guys about, just all honesty, that the multiverse was kind of Walter Hamada's plan, so that they could have multiple, films that aren't really attached to their shared universe. So, technically people are celebrating the death of the Hamadaverse with the cancellation of Batgirl and Supergirl, but the Joker's still going around. It's getting a sequel. And the Matt Reeves movie that he helped greenlight is getting a sequel. So, some of the ideas that Walter Hamada had aren't really gone. It's just some other ideas that he had are dead and gone, and buried. But, it's not fully over, and you don't want it to be over because we all like the Batman, right? And you guys are fans of the Joker movie and Aquaman. That's Hamada. It has the Snyderverse actor Jason Momoa as Aquaman, but the Aquaman movie was changed after Zack Snyder left. That became like a Hamada movie, and it did $1 billion. As much as I like Zack Snyder, his films didn't really hit projections, you know? And a lot of DC films right now haven't really been hitting projections either. The Suicide Squad movie was really good, but it didn't, it wasn't a financial hit. It did spawn off a really good show, The Peacemaker, which is getting a second season. But, I wouldn't say that it was a massive win for the studio. They've had a lot of problems. And with HBO Max closing and Discovery Plus closing and them creating a brand new thing, which is good, I guess. And I love the fact that they said, which Warner Media did not, HBO Max release was a disaster because it only existed in a couple countries. Whereas this new thing that they're developing that will be the home for both Discovery and for HBO Max is going to happen around the world. So it's going to be a worldwide release. That way, our fans who are over in Europe or wherever you guys are, China, Hong Kong. Sorry, Hong Kong is part of China now. Let's see, Korea, Philippines, Japan, Germany, Austria, all that stuff. Like, it all releases at the same time, which is what HBO Max should have. They shouldn't have released HBO Max first in America when it wasn't ready to go all over the world, because all they did was they ended up limiting their subscriber base. So David is smart in making sure that this thing releases in 2023 in the summer, and it goes all over the world. So wherever you are in the world, if you want whatever this app is going to be called, you can get access to it. And you're going to have all of HBO Max content, all of Discovery, and yay, CNN! Yay! That's fun, right? Yeah. It's HBO Go here. Thank you, Chad. Chad's from the Philippines, by the way. So, yeah. They should have just been... If Warner Media was just a little bit smarter, then they wouldn't be in the predicament that they were in. But I just... To me, guys and gals, I find it very hilarious that the new plan was the one that got the reset. And the old one is what got a retooling or a reimagining. And part of me was kind of like, well, maybe that was the plan all along, and everything else that Warner Brothers has been doing is a feint. Everybody's saying, for years, Henry Cavill's gone and Ben Affleck's gone. It's like, well, Henry's rumored for cameo in Shazam and a cameo in Black Adam and Black Adam 2. And, Ben Affleck's in Aquaman now. There's stock footage of Ben Affleck in Shazam. It's like, were they really gone? Or did they just build up a sense of panic to, further an interest in their movies? Studios aren't that diabolical, are they? Or are they? So I'm going to contemplate a little bit. Because technically, they did say they were done. One of them did. Ben Affleck said he retired, which got people more interested in Batman-related stuff. Or, it could all just be a coincidence and he's just back because he's happier or whatever. But, I mean, I always like to think about studios being, like, evil. So, especially Disney, operating at a loss forever just so that they eventually can just take over every form of media so that you have to, do everything on Disney until the day you die, playing games on your Disney PlayStation, watching things on your Disney Samsung, and, enjoying your favorite Disney shows on your Disney Plus services and things like that. So, yeah. I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but is it? I don't know. Right now, Disney has, like, a streaming service, and, how long before they start buying out other companies that distribute products? That could happen. I don't know. Hopefully there'd be people to stop that type of monopoly, but they didn't stop them buying Fox, and now Disney's even more powerful. Like, the only people that they have to go against them, which they have no competition right now, would be Discovery Warner, and Discovery Warner is going to take years before they, hit the ground running. If they really stick to their plan about doing things for quality's sake, I hope that we as fans of DC are in for, like, a lot of fun projects. I really do. I wish the people who are making movies now really well. I am still, I know it's mean, But I'm hoping for all of J.J. Abrams' projects to, get the yeet, because that is the old way of doing things like Warner Media. That doesn't fall in line with what Discovery has just shown their vision to be. We already know that behind the scenes there's been issues with Zaslav's team and J.J. Abrams and Quixotes and things like that. And the script still isn't really up to snuff. I mean, why waste all this time and money? They should just kill the project now, And the Gotham Knights show, which is not going to be quality at all, even for a CW show, they need to basically stick to their guns that they said yesterday now. If they're really about quality, then one of the first things that should be canceled this month is the Gotham Knights show, because nobody wants that. It's creating brand confusion with the Gotham Knights game. The show is more CW trash. It's basically like Batwoman with more characters. And, he canceled Batwoman outright. He pulled the plug on Batwoman as soon as he had the power to do so. He destroyed most of the CW Arrowverse in like a few days. Even shows that weren't really struggling, he yeeted. The Flash is ending. Legends of Tomorrow is gone. Naomi's gone. I don't know if Stargirl is still around or not. I think it's just Stargirl and Superman and Lois. I think those are the only shows that are going to exist after next year. So there isn't really a shared DC universe on television anymore. The Titans are still around, as far as I know. I haven't heard... I'm actually following a lot of key people on the Titans team to see if they were going to start panicking about the HBO... Not HBO Max, but the Warner Discovery thing today. And they didn't really seem like they were retweeting anything or doing anything, so they must not be worried about their show. So yeah, but yeah, I'm just saying, if you're gonna do that kind of stuff, like scorch the earth, the one thing that fans want you to get rid of is the Gotham Knights show. That is going to do exactly what Warner Discovery is worried about, which is damage a brand. You cannot protect the DC brand with Gotham Knights. You just can't. It's like a car wreck in slow motion, like happening before our eyes. We all know it's bad. It literally has Party City Batman costume, and people complaining about the way the Batgirl costume looked like. At least it looked like a Batgirl costume in some capacity. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to talk about Gotham Knights, but I also kind of want to get back to the Batgirl topic real quick. I think that they may have been able to salvage interest in the movie originally if they would have shown the second Batgirl costume. The Batgirl costume that they were so pleased of showing was the homemade one, which is her first costume in the movie. In the end of the movie, which you'll never see anyway, she gets a better costume that looks like an Arkham suit. It actually looks like a detailed, nice costume. And what they should have done for promotional images of the movie is they should have went with that costume, because one of the big things going up against that movie all the time was the public reception of how that movie was going to go, and that, it was going to be like a CW thing. And unfortunately, the test screening said exactly that. It was like an episode of Batwoman, a really bad episode of Batwoman, but it was a movie. If they would have actually done better promotion for it, and maybe, yeeted some parts of the script, I think the movie would have survived. But there's a lot of mistakes that the Batgirl team made, and the executives, like at Warner Media, made too, which led to David giving the film the yeet. And I'm just saying, though, to be fair, if their direction really is, we expect quality over quantity, and things that don't damage our DC brand. The biggest damage to your DC brand right now is the comic books and the Gotham Knights TV show. So if he's going to do Scorch Earth, he's got to deal with one of those two things before the end of the year. Has to either be the Gotham Knights show, or they have to go after the DC Comics. Because the DC Comics are the exact opposite of what his speech was, and that Gotham Knights show is Warner Media in the flesh. Everything that Warner Media was is that show. So if you're casting out the old regime, you still have one really big aspect of that still staring you in the face. It's like a slow-growing cyst. It's right there, and it needs to be taken out. It needs to be removed, like, soon, because it's just... going to make you look like the biggest hypocrite on earth. And, and rightly so. That's what I would say. Because the Batgirl movie was not as bad as that travesty that's being worked on. Or was worked on. But yeah, we're going to find out all the fun things that are going to happen involved with that. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I will take some questions. And I don't even know what time it is. So that was a lot of fun. I got a lot of stuff off my chest and things that I've been thinking about and haven't really been able to, talk about for quite a while. It's kind of good. Let me open up my phone here. It's 3 a.m. now. That's cool. I'm actually up usually later than this anyway. That thumbnail came out really good. I'm proud of that. Except for the DC films doesn't look very good. Alright, I got my phone open. Gotham Knights is the newest DC series on the horizon, but don't be expecting it on your TV screens this year. It won't air on the CW in 2022. The CW is making some changes. Big changes, in fact. I hope so. Make Tim again? Yeah. DC, you think DC animation is safe? No. So what do you think about the fate of WB Games? Will be shut down, sold off, continue to operate normally under Warner Discovery, or is it up in the air? I think that we're going to have to take a wait-and-see approach with Warner Brothers Games because they have a lot of, good things going for it right now. I mean, say what you will about Gotham Knights. The game does look fun. We all complain about it and we all make fun of it, but we're all going to play it. I mean, everyone in this chat, of the 400 people, I would say that probably 85 or 90% of you guys are going to pick up the game in some way, shape, or form. If you're able to. If you're financially able to, you're going to try to play the game. You're going to try to rent the game. Because in your heart, you love Batman characters. And you want to support a Batman game. And you're starving to play a Batman game. You are like, it's been 5 years. So even if we have issues with the game, even if it's bad, we want to play it. And even if it's a terrible game, I'm still going to milk the crap out of it. I've been waiting 5 years. I'm going to do lore videos. I'm going to do streams. I'm going to do short videos, long videos. I'm just going to spam your inbox like crazy. I'm going to be in Batman heaven for a while. And then maybe there'll be some rant videos with me crying if the game is abysmal. But you're still going to get tons of Gotham Knights stuff. I'm not just going to do, like, one thing on it and be like, no. It's like, I'm going to walk around. Going to do, like, all my podcasts will probably have different... I won't use Arkham Knight anymore. I'll be using, like, the new Gotham. And instead of seeing Batman like this, every once in a while you'll see, like, be a Gotham Knights character there. Instead of me roaming the streets as Batman, I'd be playing as Nightwing or something when I do my podcast. It's going to become, like... the thing that I use for quite a while. I personally, the atmosphere of the game looks amazing, and I can see using the backgrounds for tons of my videos and just doing my podcasts and whatever because I like how Gotham is. The only thing I want to know is if I can go into first-person view, because in the Arkham games I can go into first-person view. Like, I don't want the character standing there forever, even though the character looks cool. It's like, hey, it's Ben Affleck. So... I like being able to zoom in because then it becomes kind of like my own little thing, But I think based on how well Multiverses is doing and Gotham Knights, there's still a lot of buzz about it. We're going to find out more stuff about the game this month with IGN, which scares me. I'm still honestly waiting for someone to get sued because I have even talked to one of my journalist friends, and I'm like, the stuff that IGN is doing, this is technically a timed exclusive, right? And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm just like, well, why aren't people getting sued? He says, I don't know. He says, maybe IGN is feeling forgiving or something. He says, maybe the platform has just changed. But he says, if my publication was to go and use IGN's exclusive, he said, we'd be hearing from their lawyers ASAP. And I'm just like, I still don't understand how all this reaction stuff works. It's like, I know, right? So, I mean, we old dinosaurs who are game journalists, we're, like, looking at all this stuff, with mouth wide open and just kind of like, how they had to pay for these exclusives. Nobody else is doing this stuff. And you see all these YouTubers and blog sites, and they're like, aha, IGN did this, so we have the rights to do that. Not technically, And me being as dumb as I am, it's like I'm a lemming just following everybody off the cliff and waiting for somebody to get sued and just hoping it's not me. Please don't be me. Please don't be me. Oh, I'm so terrified, but at the same time, I need content. So it's like I'm playing Russian roulette with IGN. Oh, my opinion, I think Ben Affleck made a horrible Batman. That's fine, Mr. Reckless. You're entitled to your opinion. Do you think they should replace Jim Lee with someone who can actually run a multi-billion-dollar comic company? Yes. I think that Jim Lee is a fantastic artist and creative person. I don't think he's a good business person. But he was never good at business. Like, you have to remember that as much as we didn't like Dan Didio was kind of the brains, and Jim Lee was kind of the idea guy. Like, Dan was the brains and the brawn. He was the mean guy, and Jim Lee, everybody loved Jim Lee. Even people who were at not IGN, people who were at DC Comics who are no longer there, they always have good things to say about Jim Lee. When it came to Dan was the strong arm. He was the guy that you didn't want to go in his office because he was going to, let you have it with both barrels. Jim Lee was very nice, passive-aggressive, kind man, very brilliant when it comes to ideas. He's very, not very assertive when he needs to be assertive. Like, if Jim Lee showed a little backbone the past couple years that Dan has been gone, DC Comics would not be in the position it is. He says yes to everything. Even things that he's not sure of, he's a yes man. Dan was a no man, and when you combine these two brilliant guys, you had DC Comics for the past 20-something years. When you break up that team, then you have problems. Then you either have a guy who's too power-hungry and doesn't release anything, and then you have another guy who's too nice and releases everything under the sun. That's the problem with DC. They needed a two-man team to run that. Or they need someone who can be both good cop and bad cop. And I don't know who they're going to get for that, or if they're even going to do that. We don't know. We won't know till it happens. Are you going to stream Arkham soon in coming months? I might stream Arkham again. I mean, technically, I'm streaming Arkham right now. Technically, I mean, hey, look at this. There's Batman. It's an Arkham game. What's going on? Yoink. A Vicky Vale show. Probably. I mean, I love the thing. How do you feel about the Court of Owls story being adapted into Gotham Knights? You mean the video game? I mean, that was a given. They were going to have the Court of Owls appear in one of the canceled Batman video games anyway. It was a new concept that people were very excited about, and it makes sense that it would thrive in a video game environment. So let's see if it really works for Gotham Knights. It's primarily supposed to be a Dick Grayson and Batman thing, and they've taken Batman out of the equation. So, we'll see how it works for them. When will the comic book industry finally drop the agenda aspects and finally bring back the quality of the old comics? It's going to take a long time, Apex. Like I was telling you, these writers and these artists that are, very that driven, they're really the only creative force at DC right now. And they have a very, very loud voice. And you know how, picture DC as like this really big tree, and you have like these smaller trees that are planted next to it. These smaller trees are already attached to the root of this big tree that they were planted next to. So it's going to be very, very hard to remove these smaller trees without damaging the health of the big tree that's been there for 80 years. So it's going to take some very severe action and delicate planning and very intelligent people to fill those positions and find a course correction. And I mean, I don't know how they'll do it. I'm not that intelligent. I have no plan how to fix that. You can't just completely go back to the old way of doing things, because the only audience they have right now is really that group. Even though it's a small group, they don't really have that big install base anymore. Maybe they can get that way over time if, people came back for DC Rebirth that left for New 52, but, it all depends. You'd have to get an amazing creative team that people want to support again. You would have to bring back like a superstar that people still respect, that can pull their audience back to buy these books, And unfortunately, a lot of these old people that made amazing Batman and Green Lantern and Aquaman and Flash books, they don't want anything to do with DC anymore. So, I mean, and a lot of these fans who grew up with those, you know, superstars writing that stuff and being artists, they ended up going and buying, like, independent books from them, or they just left comic books in general and stuck with animation. You have some very talented people that are on Warner Brothers' animation team that refuse to work at DC Comics. So, I mean, it's going to be very difficult, you know? I hope something good happens, but I have no idea. Affleck is too old to play Batman now, 60 by the end of the 10-year plan. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Affleck will not really be around to be Batman for a long time because he is going to be, by the end of the 10-year plan, he'll be very old. Which, I mean, I wish they would have done this before, but, I mean, we don't know what they're going to do. If anything, maybe they could end up replacing him with somebody else who's around that same, like, 40 or late 30s or something like that. Or maybe Robert Pattinson would just take over in 10 years. I don't know. All we know is what they talked about today, which was very briefly, is that their focus is Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. That's their pillar. That's what they want to build from. And they're not going to use the old regime's way of doing things, which basically the old regime was trying to build a building without the foundation. So they were going to, you know, have Batgirl be the lead and have Supergirl be the lead without their founding characters. And you can't really do that. You can't build a building without its foundation. It's going to fall apart. But a lot of these weirdos don't see it that way. They see, we can use whatever characters we want. We can make a good movie. And then what they don't understand is when people saw the test screenings for Batgirl, the thing in everybody's mind is, why is Batman in this movie so little? Like, it literally inspires Batgirl to be who she is, and he's in the movie for less than maybe 10 minutes out of all his scenes. So when your audience has that mindset that they're going to see a supportive character in a main role, and that character that inspires them is not really around, you know, it's not really a good thing. So same thing, like they were going to make a Supergirl movie without Superman at all. You can't do that. Superman has to be in the movie to introduce Supergirl. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense because when people are going to the movies, they want to see Superman and Supergirl if there's a Supergirl movie. Even the Supergirl movie from the 80s made mention of Superman. Even if he didn't show up. There was at least, like, she was the cousin of Superman. You know? And the 80s movie wasn't very good. I would like to see a Batman Beyond movie. Same. Have you got any recommendations for Batman comics? My girlfriend wants to get into DC, but I don't know where to start. Stay away from the modern stuff. If you guys are going to play Gotham Knights together, I would get her the Court of Owls. That's a great new Batman story that introduces characters that are going to be very important, like the next probably 20 years in entertainment. Like, you're going to see a lot of the Court of Owls stuff. Like, a lot. The video game Gotham Knights, they're going to be in. They'll probably show up in one of the Matt Reeves Batman movies because Matt Reeves really likes the idea of the Court of Owls. He likes Mr. Freeze. He likes the Court of Owls. I would get her the Court of Owls. Start there. For older Batman stories, it depends on, like, how far back you want to go. There's great ones with Ra's al Ghul, Clayface, Two-Face, but they're all like 70s and 80s books. Like, some of the best writing for Batman happened during the Bronze Age. Although there was some, like, Long Halloween's not bad. Hush is pretty good for, like, quote-unquote, like, sort of modern. But, I mean, they did a really good job with the Court of Owls series. So I think she would probably like that if she enjoys mysteries and things like that. And it is a really good Batman story. I will give it that. Yep, Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams run. You can't go wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the movie might be better. Yeah. What are your thoughts on... What is that? SSKJL? Oh, wait. Hang on. Suicide Squad. Oh, okay. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. What are my thoughts on it? I kind of want to know how they're going to do Batman. We know Batman's in the game. I don't know how they're going to do it. Is it going to be Dick Grayson? Is it going to be Jason Todd? I would like it to be Jason Todd, actually. I would love for if they go the route where Batman was gone and they needed someone to fill the shoes. I feel like Jason taking over for Batman would be very poetic because he was there during, the end of Batman's career, and he also was responsible for, helping destroy Batman's career. I think it'd be very poetic if Jason took up the cowl and tried to make amends for his sins. But at the same time, it's very difficult because in that world, supposedly, according to how it ended, Batman wasn't seen anymore. He became an urban myth. He became like someone that only the criminals would be unlucky to come across. He doesn't mingle with the police. He doesn't do anything. He just does his job, does it very brutally, and, that's it. And that's what they were going with. So, I mean, how do you retcon all that? You could probably say it was all hallucination in Batman's mind. There are a couple really talented subscribers of mine that have had that idea over the years, Wally West and a couple Batman fans that have talked to me on Discord and stuff over the years. And I think that's, if you're going to do a cop-out for that, to reestablish the Arkham universe, have it be like a hallucination or something, like partway through Arkham Knight, that's the only way you could do it. Because if you think about it, I'm just going to get all philosophical with you guys. The idea of Arkham Knight being Bruce Wayne's worst nightmare, his family being taken from him, having to sacrifice everything for Gotham and who he is as Bruce Wayne and stuff like that, and the world knowing who he is and the ramifications for that. I mean, that sounds like a living nightmare for Batman, because Batman can't be Batman without the finances that he gets from Bruce Wayne and the emotional support he gets from his family. He would just be like a vengeful weapon, which is what ends up happening at the end of the game. Like, he's just kind of like almost like a spirit, like he's almost like the spirit of vengeance in a sense, like at the end, which is what they were going for. A Batman that is losing his humanity and only a character that is out preying on the fearful who prey on the innocent. And they were doing the opposite ending to Christopher Nolan's movie, where Bruce Wayne had a happy ending. Bruce Wayne in the Arkham Knight games does not have a happy ending. That's not much of a life, and he doesn't care. It's all about the mission. It's all about, taking down crime and protecting the innocent, no matter the cost. And the cost in Arkham Knight was Bruce Wayne. He gave up being Bruce Wayne. He gave up his family. He made sure they were taken care of. He gave up his wealth. He gave up his power. And he just became a vengeful, wraith, in a sense. That's very sad. At least that's how somebody at Rocksteady who used to work there explained it to me. They took the Nolan idea and they spun it into a very tragic Shakespearean end. It's not like an easy out, like where Batman and Alfred just die. It's like, no, there's a lot more to it. There was more sacrifice involved. So if you could somehow make that like a living nightmare for Batman, and he somehow wakes up from it, and he's still Batman and people don't know who he is, then yeah, you could have Bruce Wayne be Batman still in the Suicide Squad game. But the most interesting thing for me is, like, how are they going to do Batman? That's what I've been wondering for quite a while. Like, how are they going to do it? I don't know. No idea. Do you think after the Flash movie they're going to change the event of the Man of Steel and then follow the movies like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, and Black Adam, Peacemaker? If I'm being completely honest, the way you word it sounds like Zur-En-Arrh Batman. Yeah, I know, right? Future Night? See? I still got that old pre-52 stuff in my head. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Very good. Props. How do I think they're going to do the Man of Steel stuff? Well, considering they reshot most of Man of Steel for the Flash movie, like the key scenes with, Supergirl and taking on Zod and stuff like that, I don't think you're going to get the same ending that was in the Flash. We already know what the ending is. The ending was leaked a long time ago. Michael Keaton is Batman. Supergirl is Supergirl. Aquaman even doesn't know who a Superman is. He only knows Supergirl. He only knows Batman. And a couple other heroes. and it's a whole new world. I believe even Shazam was supposed to show up in The Flash at one point. I don't know if that's still happening or not now. It might still happen, but I don't know. If their vision has really changed and they've foregone the new slate of movies that were going to take place after The Flash, I mean, they're going to have to do some type of reshoots to change the ending, to change the third act, because the third act involved Keaton and Supergirl and the other people that fought Zod dying over and over again, and Barry resetting time, and eventually they succeed. But the new timeline is Keaton Batman, Sasha Supergirl, Barry Flash, Jason Momoa Aquaman, and then Shazam. And there was like one other character. I don't remember who it was. But now that they've retconned Aquaman, and they changed Shazam 2, like they removed all the references post-Flash. There might be a way they could do it, but like I said, I'm not... When it comes to DC characters outside of Batman, I don't really know how to orchestrate those stories or those ideas in my head. Maybe time travel or something, Speed Force related. I don't think that it's going to be a massive reset anymore. I think it's going to be a soft reboot. Before it was going to be like a massive reset with Supergirl and Batgirl in lead positions and Wonder Woman, and Aquaman would be there, and Shazam and Blue Beetle and all this other stuff. And now, I mean, it feels like it's going to be Batman, Aquaman, not Keaton Batman, probably Affleck, Jason Momoa, Blue Beetle, Shazam, probably, Wonder Woman, Superman, no Cyborg, and probably no Flash. Or if they do Flash, they'll recast to have somebody else in the future. But I think they're going to give Flash like one really good movie, and then Flash will disappear for 5 years, and they'll be like, okay, we're ready for another Flash thing. I'm just saying, I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, as long as Ezra doesn't kill somebody, God forbid, then I think that they'll probably have no problems recasting Flash, and people won't have like this even more murky and disgusting image of the Flash character, because Ezra is tarnishing the name of the Flash. I don't think he realizes it, but Henry Cavill said it best, that when you become these characters, you are these characters. Like, people see you as the character you're representing, and you have a obligation and a privilege to play these characters, because to a child, you are that person, in and out of the suit. Henry Cavill is Superman. He walks that way. He talks that way. He is a very nice guy. Ben Affleck, whether he likes it or not, he's Batman. People approach him as Batman. They say how much they love him as Batman. He has a whole fan base that has spawned because he was Batman. Michael Keaton, too. So when you have an actor wilding out, and they're the first actor to portray the movie version of that character, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. And Ezra kind of just threw it all away. And that's a big problem, because the more that Ezra continues down the crazy train, the more it's going to continue to like give a really bad outlook of the character of the Flash. Even though the Flash is a comic book character and Ezra is a person, Ezra's playing the Flash. So to many people that have seen the Flash for the first time, it's Ezra. So, like I said, I'm not smart enough to figure out what Warner Brothers is going to do with that. But provided that nothing worse happens, I still don't see how the movie's going to come out. There are a lot of people that are like, there's no way this movie's going to release. And I'm kind of in the same boat as them. I don't know. They said that they're releasing it now. Like, they went... You have to understand, what happened today was huge. They went to their investors. They told them, this is our losses. This is how much money we're going to save by doing this and this. And this is our 10-year plan. This is what we brought back Alan Horn and the executives there and the shareholders. They're like, oh, Alan Horn, I remember that guy. He did a lot of good things, and he was over at Disney, and oh yeah, he worked with that one guy. Yeah, and look what Disney did. Okay, all right. So basically, I mean, it was a big deal that happened, and when they mentioned the Flash at that meeting, that changed a lot of stuff. Because a lot of people assumed that because Batgirl was canceled and Michael Keaton was in that they were going to get rid of Michael Keaton completely and just chuck out the Flash. But the fact that the Flash has done really well in the test screenings and David likes it and the executives like it and the people who've made the movie likes it, it's a very hard movie to just throw away. I'm not saying they won't. He could just be trying to save face in front of the investors, but what people on Twitter don't realize is David is also a majority shareholder in the shareholders. So to fire him is very difficult because, like I said, he's Bruce Wayne. He's smart. He's he works for the shareholders, but also he has a lot of shares in the shareholders. So it's like that scene in Batman Begins, like, well, I thought you don't own the company. And he's like, well, when the company went public, I bought most of the shares. He's smart like that. So, I mean, it's going to be very hard to get rid of this guy. If he turns evil, I mean, my gosh. I mean, not to say, I mean, for a lot of people, they see him as evil, so I don't know. That's a very good question. The game doesn't describe what happened to Alfred after Wayne Manor exploded. All I can think of is the official story must be he died alongside Bruce Wayne. What game? The Suicide Squad? I mean, I think Alfred died. I don't know. We'll find out about what happened to Alfred. Or, I mean, just understand that even though the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is Rocksteady's baby, they might not divulge what happened at the end of Arkham Knight. I'm just be prepared for that. This story is primarily about Harley and Captain Boomerang and Deadshot and King Shark and the Justice League. So there may be a Batman in it. I mean, we know there's going to be a Batman in it because there's Batman balloons and it takes place years later. Unless this is just an idea. What if Batman isn't in it and they are celebrating a decade? Maybe there's a Batman Day that they're holding in Metropolis or something to honor the legacy of Batman, because there is Batman balloons all over the city. Why, there has to be something going on. Or, the Justice League ended up intervening and a lot of Arkham Knight has been retconned. We don't know what's happening. This is what people have to understand is when writers get attached to properties, the writer can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter if there was a continuity. Arkham Knight and Arkham in general has never followed a concrete continuity. There's always loopholes. There's always inconsistencies. And you can never, ever make a complete timeline. I argued with some Yahoo a couple years ago that made the complete Arkham timeline that went viral, and half of his video is filled with errors. But he went up there and he put it up as the truth when there are like several things that are wrong about the timeline. But he ran with it anyway because to him, it kind of made sense, but he embellished things. So it made sense. But there were several comic books that they used as an example that were wrong because the game contradicted. Like the Arkham Knight game that you're seeing right here contradict the Arkham Knight comics that they used as concrete proof of the lore. This is why I get into fights with Arkham people, though, sometimes, is because they say something's the truth when it isn't. It's just they release comic books because they want people to buy into that universe so they can make money. They don't have a coherent consistency. They're just there as cash grabs. They're not literally sitting down with the writers of the game and the comics and making a fluid world. There's going to be a lot of mistakes in that. Characters died in the comics that never died in the game. Characters died in the game that never died in the comics that they say is, So, I mean, I gave up making a full canon because it's not true. There's so many missing elements of the true Arkham timeline that it'll never be complete because the comics contradict the games and the games contradict the comics and the movies contradict the games and the comics. So they're like, it's almost like the Arkham universe is all in separate universes. Almost like a multiverse. They don't make sense. They're fun, but you're going to go crazy if you try to put together a clear timeline, because it's not true. You'll either have to lie, or you'll have to create your own stuff to make it make sense. I tried to do that. Yeah. Everything done by Rocksteady is canon. Exactly. Everything else is not. That's the easiest way to do that, yeah. So the comics aren't made by Rocksteady, they're not canon. The movies weren't made by Rocksteady, they're not canon. Arkham Origins wasn't made by Rocksteady, it's not all canon. Parts of it is. The parts they acknowledge. What do you think happened to Alfred in the Arkham Knight thing? I don't know. It's like trying to make a legend of a Zelda timeline. Oh my gosh, yes. Whew. It's not quite as confusing as the Zelda thing, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. No, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I respect people for doing art. I just don't respect people for lying. That's, that's me, but YouTubers are going to do what they want. Oh, I'm fine. Batman faked his death in Dark Knight Rises, and then he was at another location. So for Bruce to do that, it's not that hard. Yeah, exactly. And Rocksteady used the death of, or the ending for the Dark Knight Rises as the ending for their manifesto of the Dark Knight lore. They just made it more depressing because, it's Kevin Conroy playing the role of Batman. How do you envision your version of Batman, getting the end to his story? It's like, for them, it was like, well, he became a vengeful protector of Gotham, but sacrificed everything in his life to do it. That's sad. That's not Bruce Wayne hanging out with his new wife in the restaurant that Alfred told him about and, living the rest of his life as Bruce Wayne. No, he lives the rest of his life as Batman, and it's sad. But he has no support. Yeah. Anybody have any questions about the WB thing? He even said in the game, though, he had to become like the Batman that everybody had come to know in Gotham. He couldn't be that anymore because people weren't scared of him anymore. And now that people knew he was Bruce Wayne, he's going to be a pushover. So, faking his death and doing all this other stuff and creating a new Batman, in a sense, that's not connected to Bruce Wayne and is much more different than Batman was. That gives him what he wanted, which is the criminals are terrified to commit heinous acts. And, years later, it looks like when Commissioner Gordon is running for mayor or whatever, there's really not a lot of crime anymore. The city actually looked like it was pretty clean. That was Gotham at the end of the game. It looked like, it was starting to clean itself up a little bit because there weren't really super criminals anymore. Batman being out in the light created a lot of problems, if you really think about it, from a psychological point of view. Like, no, he wasn't technically responsible for creating the criminal acts of, like, his rogues gallery, but they may have been inspired by his gimmicks. That's food for thought. Everybody always likes talking about Arkham Knight. Will Black Adam be delayed? No. Do you think Warner Discovery is going to sell DC? No. I think that they're going to restructure DC. There's already rumors that they're going to do it. There's been rumors that they're going to restructure DC for the past 4 months. Just nobody knows when they're going to do it. Some people say next year, some people say the other time. It's my favorite Batman game. That's fine. What will David do next? Cancel the Gotham Knights show or fire the crazies at DC? If he's going after priorities, I would probably go after the Gotham Knights show because I don't even know if he's consciously aware that he greenlit the show. In all honesty, I picture David sitting in his office and they gave him a bunch of things to sign to greenlight for the next season. And I think that what happened was, I'm not saying that the man is stupid, but I'm just saying based on how much he's working. And Amber's come to me when I've been working for like 15 hours and asked me a question and I approve something that I have no idea I said. I picture David was in his New York City office, and there was a slate of things that he had to approve as the new CEO. And when he saw the name Gotham Knights, he was assuming that was the game. And he greenlit it. Or, like, he approved whatever they needed for it and didn't really pay attention to it. He saw the name Gotham Knights. He remembered that Gotham Knights is one of the things that their company's been working on. And then he just let it pass. And at the same time, he was canceling shows like Batwoman and all this other stuff. Because right around the same time that they were doing hype for Gotham Knights, everything that Gotham Knights related when this show got greenlighted was about the video game. Like, it kind of snuck right in there. Like, Warner Media was really smart to get... If the show had a different name, I don't think it would have gotten the pass. Because like I'm saying, like when you are working hardcore, you're not aware of everything that's happening when you're in the zone. When you're filling out things, when you're replying to business emails, especially for me. I have ADD, and I'm super focused when I'm multitasking. But like I said, if Amber came down right now and I'm in the podcast and she asked me and said, I'm going to take out like $500 from the bank account or something to go shopping or something, I'd be like, okay, whatever. Because I wouldn't really understand what she's taking the money out for because I'm in the middle of a podcast and I'm focusing on that. And she'd be all happy. She'd be like, hey, okay, thank you, honey, love you. Like, okay, whatever. Be safe, wear a mask, whatever. And, suddenly the next day there's $500 taken out of my bank account. What? And be like, what happened? And then, I'd find out and be like, don't! So, yeah, that kind of stuff can happen when you're really working hard. So that's how I vision kind of what happened with David. Because there's brand confusion even to people who don't know what Gotham Knights is. When they're talking about it, whoever was clever enough to make the show the same name as the video game is probably the only reason they're still around. So basically, W Games' upcoming games, well, their future is bright and they will stick around. I mean, let's see what happens. If Gotham Knights does really well, then I would say that Warner Brothers Games will have a huge leg to stand on for any future project they want to do and get like some type of budget from Warner Discovery. And I don't think Warner Brothers Games will have as many pushback as it did before, because before Warner Brothers, Warner Media just said no to everything they did. Every Batman and Superman game they wanted to do, no. All you have to do probably to get your project done now is, go and talk to somebody who knows David, because David says he wants his film focus to be Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. So what you could cleverly do is go up to him and say, hey, I want a Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman games, and I need this amount of money to make it. And, he'd probably perk right up and be like, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, approved. So if I worked at Warner Brothers Games, I would be coming up with ideas for games that I want to make and just make them about Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. And for the first time ever, you'd probably get your game approved pretty quickly over the next 2 years, because that's what his film vision is. Imagine if the film vision and the game vision was united. That would be a heck of a thing, wouldn't it? Or, the Flash game. It depends if he wants to be cohesive, yeah. Because, that's what Marvel's doing right now. Marvel has, an X-Men movie coming eventually, but they have a new X-Men Wolverine game coming. They have a new Spider-Man game coming. Their video game division and their film division are actually almost kind of in sync. They're delivering entertainment that's similar to the movies, except, if I'm being honest, I would say that the Marvel video games are better than the MCU. Spider-Man's story in... the Marvel video game was pinnacle storytelling. The Guardians of the Galaxy video game is so much better than the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And I wanted to say the Avengers game is better than the MCU, but in this case, the MCU Avengers pwns the Avengers game. But, it's just interesting. Will Black Adam be part of DC Studios? If it succeeds, Spider-Man will crush in next year. Unfortunately, Rocksteady's game will have a tough time against it. I agree. They waited. See, this was the year. 2022 was the year that Warner Brothers would have no competition for their DC superhero games. Suicide Squad, and Gotham Knights. And next year, Suicide Squad, even though it's brought to you by the Rocksteady developer, it's going to be almost 10 years between their games. 13 years, I think. Or wait, no, 7 years. Wait, no. 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 8 years. 8 years since their last video game, Rocksteady. And they're still expecting fans to appear in droves for the Suicide Squad game. And a lot of them are not going to return the way that they would for the next Arkham game. You don't have that audience anymore. Yes, you have the developer and you have developer respect for that brand, but that brand doesn't really exist anymore. It's gone. It's not an Assassin's Creed franchise. They could have done it, but Warner Brothers was stupid. Warner Media and Warner Games was dumb. They squandered that. I don't even think, because it's been 7 or 8 years now, I don't even think you could resurrect the Arkham franchise. It wouldn't be as successful because that audience has already moved on to the Spider-Man games. That audience has moved back to Assassin's Creed. Surprise, a lot of Arkham players play Assassin's Creed. So, I mean, and a lot of Arkham players went to Spider-Man. That's true. I think they could make a Superman game if they wanted. Any other questions about the Warner Discovery thing? Would I love to see a Batman animated series TV show? And if you do, who would you want to be the voice actor? Kevin. The only problem is we are getting a new Batman show, but the problem is it has a modern spin to it. The new Cape Crusader show that's in development, they've already said they modernized it. And that term is very bad because that's the term they use for DC Comics today. So pretty much you have Bruce Timm making a show without any checks and balances. Whatever Bruce Timm wants to do. Oh boy. And you have to understand that Bruce Timm was given creative freedom to make the Killing Joke movie. Imagine a whole 12 episode 12 episode season with Bruce Timm doing whatever he wants without any checks and balances. That's going to be the Cape Crusader. Cape Crusader most likely is going to suck. Sadly. Now, if it was Bruce Timm and Paul Dini working together on a next series of the animated series, yeah, I'd say it's going to be awesome. But Cape Crusader has J.J. Abrams. It has the only voice of reason in that group is Matt Reeves. And even then, it's not enough to stop Bruce Timm, because Bruce Timm is the creative force behind that show. Spoilers. Paul Dini's at Marvel. Been sub for years. Any news on Young Justice? The next season? No. I'd like for this 10-year plan to have a good, clear continuity, including Keaton and Aquaman or Batgirl. Hopefully one day, way down the line, we'll get a new Batgirl project with a different cast. Most likely you're going to get Batgirl to show up in a Batman movie, and then she'll get her own movie. That's a guarantee. They're trying to create a foundation, make pillars that they can build off of, instead of building up these characters without the proper foundation to introduce them. They're trying to introduce these characters in their own movie without the foundation. There's like a foundation of sand in the Batgirl movie with Michael Keaton, but Michael Keaton doesn't have a big enough presence for you to really care. It really was a Batgirl movie. Whereas in Batgirl Year One, Robin and Batman played a very big role in her story. They're like, not they. Batman is just kind of like a side character, like in an anime. You know how like you have like a classmate in an anime? You have like your main character, and then you have your supportive characters, and then you have those characters that interact with the supportive characters once in a while. That was Batman in the Batgirl movie. He wasn't a supportive character. He was a character that was a friend to a supportive character that the main character may interact when speaking to their circle of friends. That's what was wrong with Batgirl from an anime point of view, if you guys watch anime. Does that make more sense? Do you think the new animated show is going to be like Gotham High comic? You mean the Cape Crusader? No. And Batman is just there. Yeah. Yeah, he was just there. He had 5 scenes, and the runtime of Keaton's appearance in the Batgirl movie, if my source is correct from the screening person they heard it from, it's about 6 to 7 minutes out of the entire movie. If you add up all of Keaton's scenes, it's about 6 to 7 minutes. 15 minutes if you're really lucky, depending on the screening. Do I ever sleep? No, I'm Batman. I sleep in the morning. They canceled Batgirl, but they kept Shazam 2. They canceled Batgirl because the Batgirl movie was bad. Shazam 2 scored high ratings in the test screenings, and everybody at the studio liked it. Batgirl's 2 test screenings were bombs. The first one was bad. The second time they showed the movie a different way, it was worse. Audiences did not like Michael Keaton and Leslie Grace's chemistry. They loved, in both screenings of the movie, Firefly. Brendan Fraser was a breakaway star of the movie. And J.K. Simmons had a wonderful supportive father role in the movie. But for the most part, most audiences walked away after watching the movie saying, and I quote, "This was like a bad TV show episode." So I don't know how anyone can spin that the test screenings were positive, because they were not. Also, people were very confused why Michael Keaton was there and Ben Affleck wasn't the Batman talking to J.K. Simmons, who they all remember from the Justice League movie. So there was a lot of issues with that movie that they just can't fix. And Shazam is now connected to the greater DC universe, so you'll get a lot more nods to the current DC universe in Shazam, whereas before it was going to be a movie that helped kickstart the new DC universe. So it's part of the old DC universe. I'm sure J.K. Simmons will be back. Yep, Brendan Fraser's role was great. Have there been any new Flash screenings? No. The last Flash screening that I heard about was a month or 2 ago, and it was good. I got mad at the person telling me about it because now the movie's spoiled for me if that's how the movie is. Kind of wanted, just because I really didn't want to know. I knew Keaton was in it, and I knew how many scenes, but I didn't know everything that happened in it. Sometimes I like spoilers, but if I'm really interested in something, I don't want to know everything about it. And this person just kept going on and on and on about everything about the Keaton things, and it's just like there's nothing there for me anymore. It's just like when I'm there, it's just gonna be like, oh, because when I learn spoilers, I learn about certain scenes, right? But I don't know everything that happens in the scene. This person was so excited that just kept talking about all the Keaton stuff in intricate detail. So the fact that when it finally comes out in theaters, if that is the cut of the movie, I'm going to know everything. Even the dialogue and the mannerisms of Batman. It's just like, ugh. Excuse me. Do you believe the Flash movie will be canceled? No. What's your ideal DCU order and continuity with the current and future films? I don't know. Why would Metropolis celebrate Batman's legacy? I don't know. Because, I mean, he did a great thing. Well, I mean, it's too late for me to think about that. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with the whole idea of celebrating Batman's legacy in Metropolis. Like a Batman Day. Maybe the Justice League tell the Earth that it's important to have a Batman Day because of what he did in Gotham. I don't know. There's Batman balloons all over the place. You explain them. Were they throwing a birthday party for Batman then? They're all over Metropolis. Why? Batman Day. Do you think Chris McKay is a good director for Nightwing? Yeah, if he ever gets to make his movie. With a new 10-year plan thing, will they start a fresh or soft reboot? Probably a soft reboot. After the 10-year plan, hard reboot. Batgirl could not be worse than Shazam with fake Superman. I'd be surprised. Batgirl was pretty bad. The more I heard about the movie, the more I felt bad for the person who had to sit there and watch it. Do you think Superman game will happen in the near future? I mean, if they continue to push for Superman stuff, then maybe. Does Bat Keaton say in the film, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts"? A character says that to Keaton in the movie. At least in one of the screenings. One of the screenings, Keaton said it as Batman, which didn't make any sense. And then in another line, another character says it, but I'm not going to say who the character was, because there's been multiple screenings for The Flash. And I don't know why they included that other than the memes. Which is a stupid line, because in actuality, Bruce Wayne is the one that says to Joker, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." Batman never says that line. So to have Batman say that line doesn't make any sense. Other than him just like getting all meta and, throwing back to the original, 89 movie. He never said it in costume. Was Batgirl going to be in the theater or straight? It was always going to be streaming. They tried to push it. I think part of the reason why the movie got canceled is that the team was trying to push for a theatrical release. And the movie would look terrible in theaters. It also cost more money to reshoot elements so it could be in theaters. It was designed for streaming. Do you think the new DCU will take inspiration from Rebirth, like how the Snyderverse took inspiration from the New 52? Yes. DC Rebirth is a good place to go for that kind of stuff, especially with the time travel elements and other things. Is it right that the first time he comes out in costume, he says, "Let's get nuts"? I'd have to look at my notes again. I have it all written down because I was going to make a Flash video, because Flash was supposed to come out in December or something like that originally, and that's the last time that I wrote out all this stuff involved with it. I really don't want to look at it right now because it's cringe. That aspect is cringe. Do you think Leslie Grace would have been a good Batgirl? She was phenomenal in The Heights, so I would think she would have been a great choice. I didn't like In the Heights, but from what I heard of the screenings, her performance wasn't bad. It's just when it was up against like Michael Keaton, it was awkward because Keaton like outshone her. It didn't feel like it wasn't the right chemistry between the two of them, and also it wasn't right how she was treating Keaton in the scene. So it felt weird from what we've heard about it. Her interaction with J.K. Simmons is perfect. You can believe that it's a father and a daughter. Her friends, very good. It's just the Batgirl stuff that just didn't hit well. When she's Barbara Gordon, everything's fine. She's a good Barbara Gordon. Thank you so much for this podcast. I was extremely worried about Warner Discovery, but you gave me hope that Discovery is going to do the right thing and turn things for the better. Eventually. Yeah, Barbara Gordon is not a gymnast in the movie. She is... The reason that she's able to fight and stuff is because she went to a police training school. She went to police academy. But she's not a gymnast. She's not any of the stuff that she's supposed to be. She learned how to do stuff at the police academy. Spoiler. Am I going to watch The Sandman? I don't know. Top gameplay going on right now. Yeah. Should I do a spinny cam? Woo! Yeah, intense gameplay action. Okay, I'm getting dizzy. Look at that rain action. Man, that storm's moving. I've never seen a cop fight. Some of them know martial arts. Most of them just learn boxing, though. I mean, police academies aren't what they used to be. But cops are supposed to learn self-defense. Just like in the military, they teach you self-defense. You have to. You have to know, like, how to disarm somebody. It's your life, so you got to take action. The raindrops are fighting each other. Yes, they are. Pro gaming. Yeah. Rain looks like real water. I mean, isn't this game amazing? Yeah. Is this a Vicky Vale show? Should I do my girl voice? All right, any remaining questions, guys and gals? Because I have some other stuff I got to do tonight. I had a blast, though. This was a lot of fun. I didn't know when I would actually get around to making this, so... You guys helped with that. Ouch! This game looks still amazing to this day. I know, right? You're looking at Arkham Knight through the PS5. Just to make sure... Is Cavill still Superman? We don't know. I think that's the plan. No wonder Batman is always tired. Batman just stands staring at Vicky Vale's sign for hours. Okay. We'll have him do that. He's thinking about Vicky. He's thinking about returning that call that Vicky has. Is David Zaslav a supervillain? Yes. Yes. He's Lex Luthor. And it's only going to get more interesting. He's going to say things, and then he's going to do things. And he's not even going to tell you everything that he's going to do. Like I was telling you, you're going to find out things that he does weeks after. And it's going to be shocking. Because it's a different philosophy. He's a businessman from New York City. And California people play by different rules. People in New York play by different rules. And he owns a massive corporation now. And he's going to run it the way that he's always run Discovery. Which is results. No results, bye-bye. If something sucks, bye-bye. Doesn't matter, you know, he doesn't care who's attached to a movie. If it sucks, that's it. You get, like, you don't get 3 strikes. You get a couple chances, and if you still fail, then that's it. Batgirl had 2 test screenings. Test screening 1 failed. Test screening 2 failed. And that was it. Unfortunately, the second screening, he saw. So, whoopsies. That's the ball game. First test screening he didn't see, he heard about. And then he went to the second one. Ouch! That's not good. You think there will ever be a remaster of Arkham Knight? No. Representing the East Coast, yep. Is there a proper way to spread peanut butter on a corn muffin? Lives depend on it. Corn muffin and peanut butter? What? Is that a thing? I've never heard that. Is that like a Midwest thing? We don't do that in the East Coast. We do not do that in the East Coast. I've never heard that. I will have to try that now. I will ask Amber to cook some of those. I'll try it. WB also cared about results, and they constantly pivoted. WB never cared about results. Warner Media is not the same as Warner Discovery. They've never done anything this hardcore. The entire time that Warner Media was around, they never did anything like this. Warner Media was a pushover company that kept shows on the air even when those shows were dying. They found a way to continue them. Batwoman is a clear example. Batwoman should have been canceled after the first season. That show cost them mint, and it got no audience. It made no money. It was a travesty, and they just kept, you know, letting them exist. They didn't care. But Warner Discovery came into power, and then that was it. They looked at the show, they looked at the ratings. Gone. It was like, and it wasn't just that. Legends of Tomorrow, gone. Legends of Tomorrow wasn't doing badly, but they weren't performing well, and that was it. You know, the entire Arrowverse, that was Zaslav. That was David. It's gone. The only things that survived were stuff that was succeeding. If Superman wasn't doing well and was only in his second season, that would have been gone too. Stargirl, gone too. Titans, gone. But those shows were performing better than the other shows he canceled. Warner Media never would have done that. You would have 5 or 6 seasons with Batwoman if Warner Media still existed. Guarantee it. They were pushovers. They greenlit everything. No backbone. I know Stargirl is decent. Do you plan on doing another stream like this? I mean, that's up to you guys. I mean, I used to do podcasts whenever I had time. I'm a full-time streamer now on my other channel. So, I mean, if I have time to do it, yeah. If you like it. I don't really do much. I just talk. Tell you about all the things on my mind, all the things I've heard, all the things that happen in the news, you know, in our little wheelhouse. And then I do Q&A with you guys, and that's it. What's the best show right now? Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois is the best. All right, guys and gals. That's it. That's all. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Stay safe. And I'm trying to remember what's left on my itinerary tonight. I'm taking my wife to see a movie, believe it or not, at 11 in the morning. I'm going to take her to see Super Pets. So I still have some things to do. I should probably write the newsletter now for my channel. And what else did I have to do tonight? I have to go over my list. I still have... I'm going to be working at least until 4 in the morning. 5. Oh, it is 4 in the morning. Crap. I'm going to be working until 5 at least. Alright, later people. Have a wonderful night. And hopefully good things will happen with the whole Discovery thing. I guess we'll find out, huh? We'll do another podcast when something interesting happens, or if you guys have a topic you want to hear about. Okay? Just, I'm not going to be reading any DC comics lately, so don't bring that up. We'll just be talking about Gotham Knights stuff, or maybe more Warner stuff, because I'm sure there's going to be more news in the next week or so. Stuff that wasn't mentioned in the meeting. We can tackle that, but it's pretty exciting to talk about all the stuff we did. Alright, people. Take care. How do I end this thing again?